3 different manufacturers, 4 different institutions, 5 teams, 9 points, 2 races to go. Imola is our starting point then for the road to the finish. It can't get any tighter than this, and it's only happening here on Racebot TV and iRacing Live next, here at Imola. This is your Blancpain GT series.
Green flag in the air, let's get our show on the road. 3 hours worth of racing. We are green as the cars will come down in towards 1 for the first time. Paddock Hill Bend. The question will be, will they all survive it? The answer is going to be at the front of your field, most definitely so.
Now Bono, who he's trying to show his class, the promise that has been expected of him, and a little bit of a wide line taken there into the corner for Jeremy Bouteloup. Of course, ever a brilliant driver in his own right, but now you can see down his back straight away. Now here's the advantage where Bono, who he has in Team Red Line Green, he's got a car with better top speed compared to the cars behind him of the BMWs, and there you can see Rens Broekman had a little bit of a look, Will, but not quite close enough.
No, it's not, and it's worth noting that these 3 cars seem to be very closely matched in pace.
Jeremy Bouteloup out there in front is the only car with that clean air. You see him running away. However, Rens Broekman, he also has dirty air. He's maintaining that gap to Bono Huiz in that red line green car much better than Bono's been able to maintain that gap onto the Radicals Online Steel Series BMW of Bouteloup.
And fantastic level of consistency from Jeremy Bouteloup right now, and it's been enough to open 1.2 seconds at the moment, Will. It's enough to say Bouteloup doesn't really have to worry at the moment. Potentially, it's a little bit aesthetic.
We saw a bit of maybe team orders happen at the 6 hours of Spa when the NX Racing red car, I mean, they went from 3rd to 1st in basically a lap, and the blue and yellow cars essentially gave way. And hey, look, there it's happening already again. Now, how quickly can Voss close in on the back of that NX Racing yellow car? With the team change, with Isaac Price being out at NX Racing red, Jake Segwick coming in, going to be taking command of that second driver's slot. How competitive are that going to be? Is the NX Racing yellow car, will they be flying the NX flag for the rest of this championship? Or is it going to be red? Will Jake be able to maintain that pace? Will he still be as competitive as Isaac was? We'll find out probably in your final stint of this race today.
This is the problem that you have here in racing. If you're going to be in the middle of a sandwich, if you start attacking, you now have to start defending, because now you can see Joni Tamala in that NX Racing red car now starting to hound the breath, starting to just be breathing heavy on the back of NX Racing Yellow. They're in a really difficult position, but NX Racing Red, they're going to be start thinking, you know what, I need my hurry up. I know I'm quicker, I know I can catch, but catching's one thing, passing's another, and especially with the pit stop window coming in about 10 minutes time, Randy, maybe people are gearing up to maybe get that first driver change done.
I think the longest we've seen is actually Rens throwing up the inside in corner number 1. Bonnie Huiz, Team Red Line Green, defending on the outside. If Rens can hold it here, he's going to have the line going up into Druids. We've seen so many historical passes here, but Bono shuts the door. No, not quite. Rens stays there on the inside as they work through Druids. We've seen so many famous passes there of teams going up on the inside and coming out ahead as they cross through the trees. Rens there, though, not able to get it done. He's flashing the lights. I think he's a little irritated at that Red Line Green car. I think Rens has pace. I think Red Line's holding him up.
Here comes Rens Broekman to the outside. Nothing, but this is way too close, and when Broekman goes off, oh, he is flipped out there! Round the Steel Series car is off the racetrack. Sylvian Pomerade there gets together the 18 machine, and that is a big incident, just like at Spa at the end of the
Rens is
first
off again.
hour.
Rens has damage.
A huge issue. Broekman is off. Broekman's championship, I would say, at this stage, is done.
I think he was maybe just mentally irritated at himself having that little incident. It wasn't the dirtiest move ever. Rens just pushed himself too hard, got himself off the track, and when he tried to get back on the track, that back end just kicked out, and he unfortunately got into that Radical Steel Series car. It's an uncharacteristic mistake from Rens Broekman, although we've seen him have similar incidents before. Remember last year's 24 Hours at Daytona, where he famously flipped over the Glacier Racing prototype going into your International Horseshoe. So Rens isn't flawless in this machine. Will Fred Rasmussen be able to make a move here? The top speed disadvantage is going to be impeccable, though, as Fred thinking about making a move. You have two of the most aggressive drivers in this series of Jesus Cecilia and Fred Rasmussen now through Hawthorne's Bend up towards Dingledell, and Fred is going to throw it up the inside. We've seen it fail here a couple times already. Look how much Fred has to check up there. 3 cars all going for the same position. A great move by Fred. I think he's going to get the pass done. Can Ren slip by?
Oh my word, look at Rens Broekman.
He's trying so hard, but he's going to have to keep it there side by side through Sterling. Still, they're going to go nose to tail. They almost touch as they head themselves down to the next corner. The next one, the right-hander of Clearways. And now the position, surely now Ren's Brokeman's, and yes, it is.
On board them. Well, we know it's Sean Jens.
Jesus! Coena gets spun around.
Running on board the happy face of Bjorn Jens, but the happy face will now be a sad face. And here is the reason why. Down in towards turn number 2. Here's a Cecilia late on the brakes, and well, I'm going to call that a dive bomb.
I would call that incredibly dirty, and I think Jesus Cecilia and Dark Indigo Racing Team have to be penalized for that at some point, either in this race or the rest of the championship. He just almost stupidly throws it up the inside going into 2 here at Brands Hatch on one of your championship contenders. Just for someone with as much pace as Jesus, someone with a real-world drive, he needs to drive much more contained than that. That was just overly aggressive and frankly silly.
Here we go. Core Motorsports to the outside versus Dark Indigo. Winner this time by Core Motorsports holds the inside line, outside line. He's going to duck it down to the inside. He should get the inside line. Oh my word, not again! He's down in the center of the racetrack. He turns into the corner and he clips that curb a little bit. And I actually have to say, that number 33 machine just seems to have rubbed that curb a little bit too much. Let's all pay tribute to a moment from Max Backen, because he has worked through this traffic magnificently so far.
Yes, that's a real good work ethic here that the Radicals Online Steel Series car has really put in. Led from the front right now, has themselves a gap of about 7 seconds here at the front of the field.
So this is then heading themselves down. You can see a bit of a wiggle from the first place there from the Team Redline car. Then into the corner, Team Redline Red looks to the inside. Green came down on red there. Team Redline Green, by my view, Randy, came down on NX Racing Red. Now is your chance to go. Now is the time. You have to go, because the gap from P3 to P2 has extended up to 7.1 seconds, and there's traffic in the way as well. We're going down to the inside, and he's going to make the pass, or will he? As they go for one, they make contact. Oh my word, Red Light versus NX Racing. They drift it, they save it. It's fantastic. But now, who will get the pass into Druid? NX Racing inside line, outside line. It's Fnatic, Team Redline, and NX have the pass.
Looking at Coena Sinsport, skipping tires 2 races out of 4, and in one of them it gets them a win, and in the second one it gets them up to 2nd place. I think if you're every other team, you really have to evaluate in your testing phase about whether or not taking tires on that last stop is actually faster. Yes, it might be on paper, but in terms of track position, maybe not.
Tide is up, white flag is out, final corner from Matt Backham, and Radicals Online will win round number 4 of the Blancpain GT Series here on Racebot TV. And then Coanda Sim Sports, a magical display of strategy. They salvage what was going to be the end of their championship to take 2nd. Winning on the Vec, NX Racing Yellow keeps themselves in the championship by claiming 3rd.
Inex Racing Yellow, VRS Coanda Sim Sport 18, Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports, and Red Line Black. 5 teams within 9 points, 2 races to go, 6 hours worth of racing over these 2 next events. 3 hours here today around the circuit Autodromo Enzo Edina Ferrari, otherwise known as Imola. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Mr. Randy Chenouth and also Mr. Jimmy Broadbent as well. And Randy, this is huge going into this one. We have never seen a series like this before. It's the first one of its kind. And now, with 5 teams even, so close, it's all about who has the biggest mentality. But a couple of penalties already are going to put a couple of title challenges into doubt.
Yeah, I mean, top 5, like you said, going down in order: NX Racing Red, VRS Coanda, NX Racing Yellow, Core Motorsports, Team Redline Black. It's a third place tie between Core Motorsports and NX Racing Yellow. Those are the two teams with drive-through penalties at the start of this race, at least who are in your top 5 in points. Those who are really focusing on showing the point standings currently. And as you guys can see, 9 points separates everyone. And, like you said there, Jake, 5 teams. I mean, that's what, 22, 23 drivers at a quick guesstimate. This championship is tight, and with those drive-throughs, I mean, that opens it up to maybe even some other teams as well if the other 3 runners don't have a strong run. Really, though, it depends how's Core going to do and how's NX Yellow going to do with this drive-through penalty. We saw Core at Spa not qualify very well. They had to come from the back of the field, but they had 6 hours to get that done, and they started from the mid-pack rather than being, 30 seconds probably behind last place, which is what they'll be after the drive-through here, just as a quick estimate. So both of those teams have their hands absolutely full.
Yeah, they certainly do. They could see the points up on the screen there just briefly for a moment. But Jimmy, this circuit here, Imola, is one of the brand new ones to the iRacing service. It's a tight and technical, very difficult circuit to get right at times. And now there are lots of positions to move forward. Of course, we're showing these points without the drop weeks being applied as we move on forward. But Jimmy, a very difficult circuit, very tight, and very easy to say one wrong move and you're off.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Jake, and hello, ladies and gentlemen. Imola, one of those legendary circuits among racing fans. I don't think there's someone out there who doesn't know the layout of this circuit. And as we said before, a very technical circuit. There are a lot of sections where you're braking downhill, having to make sure you're monitoring that brake and tyre wear. Looking at the track, we've had a couple of drivers feedback that we're seeing the BMW and Mert drivers struggle a bit around here for pace. So that could come as a handicap for the NX teams. I believe they're both in Mercedes cars. Also, the BMW drivers, the SimSport Coanda car, VRS Coanda car, sorry, and these are the guys that are sort of in contention. So they need to be finding a way around that. This is sort of almost like a sprint race in terms of the endurance. 3 hours, 3 hours. It's a couple of pit stops, and that's it in that case. But yeah, it's all for nothing here.
Yeah, and this is one of the most difficult circuits. You also look at the pit lane here, Randy. One of the longer pit lanes. Not as long as, say, what Spa-Francorchamps was at the 6-hour event that we had, but this pit lane for these drivers that do have to serve those penalties, they are absolutely paramount to know that they are going to lose so much time. Of course, a reinvented pit lane, you go pretty much all the way down this 1 kilometer straightaway.
Yeah, I mean, it is a long pit straightaway, and it's just painful to have to be on the limiter all the way down there for those guys that have drive-throughs, and of course a couple teams that have some 2-lap penalties as well. You actually won't see those guys starting on the grid. I believe it's Phoenix Motorsports and Redline Green who have those penalties, maybe a couple more that I'm not aware of, but it is a long pit lane, and that's not only going to dictate what those guys who have those drive-throughs do, it's going to dictate the strategy of this race. With it being a long pit lane, what's the fuel economy going to be like here? I don't think we've ever seen GT3 cars in an endurance format on this racetrack, so it is somewhat up in the air to someone like me who doesn't race all that often anymore. I don't know how long these cars can run. It may be conceivable that you might be able to cut out a pit stop, but that's just a guess, and even then, that's just a kind of a shot in the dark. But it'll likely be a 2-stopper, but it's kind of hard to say.
Kind of hard to say. 2-stop then seeming to be the main strategy. Now, talking about strategy, the big team that we have to talk about strategy here, Jamie, is that VRS Coanda SimSport number 18. Twice they've tried to reinvent the wheel, taking just 1 tyre in that second round of stops. Okay, granted, it's not going to be the quickest thing on paper, but put it into practice. They've certainly shown it works. Marcus Lederman behind the wheel at the moment as they're going to head to qualifying in about a minute's time. You have to say, if they get another strategy like that called correct and nobody else is going to follow them, they're in a prime position to really put a stranglehold on this championship.
They definitely are, but on the flip side of that, you have to wonder, is it worth the risk? I mean, if these bold strategies, they may work, but they also, on occasion, go completely the other way and end up just putting you seconds down on where you should be. And you have to think, they are only 4 points off the lead in this championship. And if they're going to go for something risky, it has to work. It has to be consistent, and it has to put them up the road. Otherwise, it's just going to be, if anything, making their challenge for the championship even harder than it already is.
Yeah, certainly seems possible. And another thing we need to talk about is team orders here, Randy. Of course, we see in the iRacing Grand Prix World Championship Series, we saw what team orders did with Ollie Pakala and Gregor Hutu. We also saw what happened between Graham Carroll and Peter Berryman at Suzuka. And that's a huge thing here. We're seeing some drivers now getting these race bans for putting team orders into effect. Now, for a team like Inex Racing, who were using them effectively in the last 2 races that we've seen here in this series, it's going to be one of those things. If Inex Racing Blue get ahead of Red and Yellow, we're not going to see it going to be one of these things. They're going to have to either A, disguise it very well, what happens, or B, they can't do it at all and they've got to scrap on the track.
Well, it's almost certain that the blue car will get ahead of yellow at some point because yellow has that drive-through. Big question, I think, is going to be between red and blue and how's that going to come into play. Yeah, we think we've seen it happen in a couple of the races, but they did a very good job at disguising it. Ollie Pakala at Spa didn't really do a great job disguising it, didn't really hide that much at all. So, I mean, they've played it safe so far, but you have to say, I mean, team orders have to almost certainly come into effect. And, you know, if you're Inex Racing Blue, you don't get in the way of Inex Yellow or Inex Red if they somehow end up behind you. You need to try to let them get out in front and let them get away with those points early. But just don't make it obvious to get yourself, you know, maybe get yourself punished for that later on down in this championship going into the Nürburgring.
Certainly not. Air conditions at the moment, 23 degrees Celsius with a track temperature of 28. Quite a cold one, you could say, for this one. Winds coming in from the east at 9 kilometers an hour, so a light breeze, you could say, moving across the circuit right now. And, well, it's going to be one of those things where you've got to adapt to the conditions at a great opportunity you can. Qualifying at the moment underway right now here at the circuits of Imola. And Jimmy, it's all about getting those lap times sorted. We normally see these drivers don't go for 2 laps in a row. They go for one big hit, then they wait, they back off, and then they go for another Banzai lap.
Well, that is one strategy, and sometimes it comes good again, and you end up putting yourself at the top of the field after 1 lap. But I also feel at this level it's worth putting in a banker lap, maybe winding yourself down to 90-95%, getting the car round. I'm just watching Maximilian Beneke in his lap, having a little bit of a drift coming through the chicane there. But if you end up doing that on your fast lap, you're losing time straight away, and you're already at the bottom of the field. So putting a decent lap, maybe look at getting a high 139, low 140. That seems to be the general pace so far. Maybe a mid 140 for your banker lap. Then go out there 110%, turn everything up, turn the tyre wear, completely ruin the tyres, do whatever you want, and then you can sort of afford to ruin that or mess that lap up with that banker lap in place.
Yeah, certainly. Let's look at the 03 Inex Racing Red. Joni Tamala behind the wheel into Tamburello, left, right, and then this little left then going up through the gears, 180, 100, 200 kilometers an hour now. Down this straight, heading towards the Villeneuve chicane here, this left-right, get yourself down on the brakes, 160 kilometers an hour, secondary braking, as you get yourself that apex, tightens up, and all over the curb he goes into this left-hand hairpin of Tozer. Be careful, up the hill is the acceleration point, and that one is going to make sure that that car gets light on the tail, as now you head towards Piratella here, this left-hander, and Randy, second half of this lap, pretty much like the first, tight, twisty, and goddamn fast.
Yeah, it really is very fast, but the corners really are relatively slow. There's a lot of decently linked straights, but where Yoni's going through right now, that's really the only point in this racetrack you're really abusing the downforce on these cars. There's also, of course, I believe the first part of the second chicane that's very quick, but still not very long. Because of that, we're expecting to see the BMW and Mercedes slightly suffer, but as I say that, they were very quick in practice and in warm-ups, so they might have something up their sleeve as well, and they may have just given me false information. So we're expecting this to sort of be an Audi and McLaren racetrack, but have to say, if practice and warm-ups were anything to go by, the BMWs and Mercedes seems quick. Let's see how they are as these first laps start chiming in.
Yeah, out of Ravazza 2 then comes Joni Tamala down towards the front straight, small flick right over the green painted tarmac, and one more small flick across the line he goes, and he will set a 1:40.245. That is the banker at the moment. Dar Contigo go fastest at the moment though with a 1:39.9. Jesus Cecilia behind the wheel right now, and Jimmy, lots being said about Jesus Cecilia after Brands Hatch. Of course, Randy here on my left-hand side has been very critical in the commentary box about his performances, but, you know, he needs to calm down, he needs to find something that he needs, and he needs some sort of result to revitalise what has been a pretty abysmal season.
Now, unfortunately for Jesus, in my experience of commentating his races and watching him race, he's very fast over a single lap, but almost untouchable. It just seems to lack that consistency and the ability to reel in the aggression. I think if he dialed it down just a couple of percent, you'd be looking at a very complete racing driver. I mean right now, like I said, very quick, just needs to dial it down a bit and he'll be definitely a contender, or already is a contender, to be one of the fastest drivers out there. Obviously, this is a team game, this endurance racing, so if you're going back to your pits after a crash each week, trying to explain to your team, oh sorry, I just messed up, I messed up, I put a wheel in the grass, I hit some lap traffic, etc. After a while, that's going to become a bit of a broken record and might end up actually endangering his position there at the team. But at the moment, I think he's in a good position. He's putting in a good lap time so far, 39.9.
It's pole.
It's a pole so far, yeah. But I think we'll see a couple of cars go quicker. I'm thinking we're going to see about a 39.5 maybe as the quickest lap so far. But who knows? I'm not out there racing. We'll wait and see.
We'll certainly wait and see. Dark Contigo fast at the moment, 139.900. Redline Black in second. Big surprises though for third and fourth though here, Randy. Thrustmaster Movano Red and also Core Sim Racing. Inex Racing Red though, they jumped themselves up into second position.
Yeah, great lap there from Yoni Tormala to get himself up there. Also, VRS Queen of Simsport currently in 8th position. Interestingly enough here, Jake, we talked about how normally guys will do one very quick hot lap, they'll get out off the track, and then they'll try to go in with another super fast hot lap. Marcus Linderman in that Koanda car, he's going for 2 laps in a row, maybe 3 here. So maybe there's something in the way the track works. Maybe the tires just play nice with it, or maybe it has to do with the lap times and having time to get around. But Marcus is going for 3 laps here. Please note the Heinzfeld Core Motorsports, they go to pole. Gecko Vortex Sim Racing moves into second. So there's a few teams amongst your top several that are going to have drive-through. You have Heinzfeld Core Motorsports and, of course, Dark Contigo. Both of them in the top 3 will be coming down pit lane in those opening laps.
Yeah, certainly. Marcus Lenneman then across the line does a 139.913. Good enough for the second row, but it's so much change here going on here in qualifying. Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports, title contenders, will have to come and serve that drive-through, of course. You have to remember, but pole at the moment with Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red and a 0-4 there as well. This one is certainly turning up for the books right now. Let's look then at what is going to be the driver of Christian Manzano in Odox Motorsports then, heading through in that 0-7, looking to try and set a lap time. Hasn't set one in the first, could set one now in the second, driving for the line. Let's see what sort of time he can do, because we're not expecting him up towards the top 10. He does himself a 140.8, and it's a difficult midfield here, Jimmy. You can see 19th position right now out of the drivers that are here. Not as many drivers as we were expecting, but these teams, there's a lot of positions to be made here from a couple of tenths.
It's been the way it has been all season. I remember at Spa, I think we had half a second covering about 10 cars or so, as Gecko Vortex betters their time, just goes, I think, 15 hundredths faster than the core team, so very tight at the top as well as the midfield. I mean, half a second here of your Odox, that would put you up to about 13th position. So, like I said, just maybe a little bit more bravery through some of the corners will end up putting you that a bit further up the grid. But starting midfield isn't all bad, but obviously you prefer to have a little bit of clean track in front of you and trying to avoid the incidents that may come at the start.
Certainly will do. 36, Redline Black, Gregor Hutu, the 5-time champion, now heading himself for the drive for the line. Can he go any quicker? Currently on the third row, he goes and does a 139.908. He gets himself up onto the second row. Importantly, leapfrogs Koanda, who jumps up pole tight time. Oh my word, they beat it on the thousandths and the tens of thousandths, Randy.
First and second place have put in the identical lap time of a 39.750. 2 different cars, both of which are cars on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of how they make their lap times. Marcus Lenderman in the BMW going to be making all that time up on the brakes and through the corners, and that Gecko Vortex Sim Racing red car and that McLaren going to be making it up all on the straightaways. So if there are questions about the BOP, it's good. It's real good.
Oh, we are certainly going to see a fantastic challenge then, but lap time starting to calm down, wind down here in this session. Raffaele Adipalo then in the Thrustmaster Movano black car, 381 machine, currently P15, heading to the Variante Alta. Now, Jimmy, this corner has profiled a lot. It's changed. It used to be so much tighter, so much more fearsome. But then, of course, tragic incidents in 1994 that we saw the death of Ayrton Senna. We also saw in 2006 to 2008 the revitalization of this Imola circuit. This is a circuit which has become a little bit tamer in recent years, but one that still holds its challenge throughout in today's motorsport era.
Yeah, the midsection of this circuit has pretty much remained unchanged bar the chicane. If anything, it's actually faster than it was back in the late 90s. Obviously, Tamburello being the corner that was reprofiled, that was just one big, fast left-hander. You'd be going around there about 180 mile an hour in a Formula car. But the Thrustmaster on a black car, he went across the line, just went 15th there, just for your guys' information. But this track largely unchanged, which is why it's still popular with people today. I mean, the middle sector very much reliant on driver skill, especially going through the midsection and the uphill that I've just forgotten the name of very quickly. But you go through there, the car loads up on the brakes, the downforce comes away, and you're left with entirely mechanical grip and the driver skill, which is where you'll see people make the most mistakes, I think, during the race. But yes, back to qualifying, it's still VRS Coan Sport at the top of the table with a 1:39.75. And as we were discussing very quickly in our chat here, you must have been 0.0001 faster to have gone there. So that's how tight that is at the top. I think that's insane.
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
That's a gust of wind.
Yeah, that gust of wind, then it just must have gusted around the circuit just in that little bit down the straight to give that advantage. Number 3 then, Iberica Racing Bank heading through Tamburello in what is a BMW. Now Randy, you can see here, gets himself all over the curb here, heading himself now towards Villeneuve, and it was very difficult here around this middle part of the circuit, but that's where this car is going to come alive, in the corners like Piratella, down into Acque Minerale, and through that chicane, the Variante Alta, to get yourself into what is a fantastic lap time, currently P20.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and not to mention Adi Coba Lopez in that car. He is mighty quick. A lot of those IRT guys are mighty quick, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a few tenths here. The fact he hasn't abandoned the lap yet means that he's looking good. It's interesting, though, that, you know, we're having so many teams. I mean, Iberica Racing Bencu here with Adi Coba Lopez, they're a team that they did that fast first lap. They essentially abandoned the second, and then we're going for a super fast third. Compare that to Coanda, same car, same track, same conditions. They ran all 3 laps, and that's when Marcus put it on pole. So maybe there's something in that BMW that brings it on a little bit later into the run as those tires start to heat up.
Yeah, that is going to be the big thing here. You look at the tyre management of certain cars to other cars. We've seen the BMW certainly has a way around it. Into Ravazza one, then down and get on the power again. Back on the brakes ever so slightly. Down to 120 kilometers an hour before really ringing that BMW engine. Not going to have this benefit down the straight. Not as much power underneath that hood, but he'll drive to the line. We'll see what sort of lap time he can do here. Just a couple of minutes to go. 1:40.464. Goes to P15 here, Jimmy. Not too bad, but not brilliant.
It does improve. He was a couple of attempts faster there, which has moved him up the field by about 4 or 5 positions, which is better than nothing, of course, but still in that mid-pack. Now these guys, obviously, they're all pros out there. We expect to see good racing, but still being the mid-pack is probably the most dangerous place to be, because you're vying for position at the same time as looking at the cars behind you, and one mistake in front of you can cause a domino effect and end up having cars going everywhere. But I don't think we'll be seeing that. These guys are the pros. This is why they're here. And with that, I think that's the last car over the line. I know Jesus Cecilia is out there as well at the moment. So
he's already run 3 laps, so
he's
done. You get 3 laps. But talking about the midfield being dangerous, not to cut in here a little bit, but you know, of our front runners, I mean, our top 6 is separated by 2 tenths. But 2 of those 6 cars have to come down pit road, and as you said, Jimmy, you know, any sort of shake-up or accordion effect that happens as those guys try to get down pit road, that could stack up the field immensely. And I mean, those guys, like I said, 3rd place for Heinz Velcro Motorsports and 4th place for Dark Antigo, they're both coming down pit road. That could shake things up real bad for the mid-pack.
Oh, and 4th position goes the Curb Surfers team. Nikita Gorloff behind the wheel. The 06 with a lap to go as well. Boys, we still have another contender here in qualifying. There's enough time to get by. The Curb Surfers could just tear up the script.
That came out of nowhere, didn't it? They were completely down the other end of the field. I didn't even notice them in qualifying, and then Nikita just puts in an amazing lap for 1:39.8, only just under a tenth off pole. If he can just find that on this lap again, find that mythical gust of wind that seems to be going around the circuit, he may upset the top of the field here, but still 4th place is an amazing effort, 2nd row of the grid at the moment.
And Randy, we were seeing this in the practice session just before. This team was fastest. This team has found something right now into Piratella, now down the hill, 200 kilometers an hour plus into Acque Minerale, and this one is pretty much get yourself nice and tight over the curve, and beautifully textbook perfect there as he runs to the Variante Alta.
He's got one more corner to worry about, really, and that is your Variante Alta. He doesn't want to catch one of these sausage curves a little bit wrong. Looks like he gets through it masterfully. You can run wide and really abuse the track limits there without getting a 1X, so that's going to keep him clean. Now it's down to Ravazza, which is relatively simple, and this curb surfers team has been absolutely fantastic in GT3 cars as of late. We've seen Dennis Grabowski in the official races on Friday has been an absolutely masterclass battling with Frederick Rasmussen in the BMW, and it runs wide, and that's going to cost him, I think, a good chunk of time, but he doesn't abandon, and yet, is he still up?
Oh, that's going to be the big question, though, and I think he's going to back out of this one. No real effort.
No, he's not.
But he's not. 1:39.756. He goes third, but 0.06 of a second. How close can you actually get? We tried to ride him off, but Nikita Gorlov having none of it. Fantastic qualifying, and this is your starting grid at Imola.
That's pole if he doesn't go wide.
Oh, wow. VRS Commander Simsport number 18, pole position by mere fractions here, ahead of the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red team here. Hear the music in the background. Curb Surfers running wide there at the second part of Ravazza. You have to feel it costed them with Huntsville Kill Motorsports there in fourth, having to serve that penalty. There you can see Dark Ontigo fifth, Redline Black there in sixth, with Inex Racing Red seventh, and Thrustmaster Movano Red there in eighth position. Look further back down, 3 Pure Racing Team cars in a row, 73, 71, and a 12, likes of which going down. Inex Racing Yellow, bad qualifying there, only 17th, but still have to serve that penalty. Could be in trouble down the midfield. Apex Racing UK there, 21st as well. You can certainly see everyone is really looking for that opportunity. 34 cars, and the car down at the back of the field, so you have to say it's tail end bookended by VRS Commander Simsport number 88 down at the back of the field. Well, of course, we are going to have ourselves a rolling grid start. But now, here's the part I like to do. Jimmy, I'm going to go to you first. Your pick for the race win today.
Oh, don't do that. I'm going to go with Thrustmaster Movano Red, because I like to pick the wild card. It's not as fast as the top 3 in qualifying, but very good in the race usually, so I'm going to go with them. The number 21 car is my bet.
Number 21 car is your bet. Randy, coming to you, your bet for the race win.
Well, I want to, even though I have some friends in this series, I'm going to go with one of those McLarens, maybe Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red or Curb Surfers. We've had different winners in every single race thus far, and we have yet to have a McLaren win. I want to see a McLaren come away with a win in this World Championship.
I think quite a few people do as well. Penalties then showing on your screen exactly who has to come down onto pit road, who has to have that 2-lap penalty, putting themselves 2 laps down around a circuit like this. 3 hours of racing will get underway very, very shortly. My pick for the race win, well, sometimes you do not have to look away from the man on pole position. VRS Commander Simsport number 18, my pick for the race win, but a pick is a pick, and it doesn't say a lot about what is going to go on right now. Timer is ticking away, and I think we're going to get ourselves underway in just a couple of moments. Very difficult run into turn number 1 here. You got to make sure that you get yourself into Tamburello corner on that inside line. Of course, that advantage goes to the odd-numbered cars, so the likes of Marcus Lenneman behind the wheel of the VRS Commander car. You look at Nikita Gorlov there. Also, you look at the likes of, say, Jesus Cecilia, all getting that advantage here as they run themselves towards Ravazza then. This left-handed, double apex left-handed corner, sometimes classified as 2, sometimes classified as just the 1 here around this fantastic Italian circuit. All eyes are waiting then as they back themselves up just a little bit. Pace car then drops himself onto pit road. We're going to get ourselves underway with a green flag in just a moment's time. You can see a very long wait here because they're waiting for that car to just drop itself in, and that one's going to really bunch this field up, and it's going to be a lot of anticipation for when they're actually going to go green to get to go. There is the green and go, and there is a fantastic jump by the VRS Commander Simsport number 18. Done a stunning job then as they head towards Tamburello. You can see everyone just trying to get themselves around, and the Curb Surfers up into second place. A poor start then, you could say, Randy, from what was that Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red machine.
That's what Marcus Slenderman needed to do. If he goes early, going into corner number 1, he's going to be absolutely swarmed by McLarens and Audis due to the top end. Because of that, he waited basically as long as he could to make the run into turn 1 as short as possible to get rid of that top end advantage that those cars had, and because of that he now has a gap, and the second quickest car in qualifying is now down to 4th place. Unfortunately for him, the cars that were 3rd and 4th fastest were only a few thousandths of a second slower, so not a big difference, but he has himself a nice comfortable gap for now, and he just needs to try to stretch the gap here as he works through Piratella and down into Aqua Minerala.
We've had some trouble at the back of the field, likes of Virgil Racing Yellow, Glacier Racing BAS1, Iberica Racing Interactive 4, Radicals Online GT involved as well. We've had quite a few incidents in this opening lap, all coming out to the end of Tamburello Corner.
A couple of cars caught up in that, Glacier Racing BS1 being one of them. Well, a good start for Andy Pajala. He was again one of the drivers that we all know and love here at the race spot, and he's currently down towards the back of the field. Towards the front, sir, I'm not quite sure if we mentioned it, but a nice start from Jesus Cecilia in the Dark Antigo car. He moved up to 3rd place, he's up to 2nd place now, actually just overtaken the curb surface car, so very good aggressive start from Jesus, now in pursuit of the VRS Commander car.
They can see then, in comes the Core Motorsports car to serve that drive-through penalty. The curb surface machine gets a slow down at the Variante Alta, probably done on the exit of the corner. Very easy to go, side by side then, Greg Ahutu versus Jody Tamala, the old guard versus the new Inex versus, what is this? Red line black machine, and through will go Joni Tamala. You could see this in that McLaren MP430. Not going to happen here though. We're going to do this in the GT3 machines. Tamala through then for the Inex Racing red machine. Crucial for their championship. They've got past a rival very, very quickly, Randy.
Yeah, they have, and those are 2 people that are fighting for points. That is your first car, Inex Racing Red, amongst your top 5, and your last car in amongst the top 5, Red Line Black. So that's going to be, that's huge for Inex Red, just to put them down a little bit further. But if you're Red Line Black, it's also good just to get away with a good finish here. I honestly think if you're Red Line Black, Inex Red, and even Coanda, you don't necessarily have to come out with a win here, because 2 of the 4 cars you're racing against have to do drive-throughs. We already saw Hinesville Core Motorsports come down, take that penalty. Dark Contigo has yet to do so. They have 3 laps. So will they go in this time, or will they go in next time?
Yeah, that is going to be the big question. Of course, you do have those 3 laps to serve over the curbs at the Variante Alta. They go on their 2nd lap of what is this fantastic 3-hour event we're having here, and this is going to be one of these key things to see here. There have been a lot of cars involved in that opening lap accident. You look at the Glacier Racing BES1 machine, the number 42 getting involved in that one. You can see here Inex Racing Yellow has also come down onto pit road. They are down at what is the corners of, I believe, the Aqua Minerale right now. And you can see right now here just how these gaps starting to go up. Still no chance for the pit lane, but Hutu again under threat right now. Hutu is struggling here for Red Line Black, and you can see here side by side he's going to go with Frederick Rasmussen of the Core Sim Racing team. Here we go, down to turn number 1, holds the line for the moment here, Jimmy.
The masterful display there by our 5-time world champion. Matt Rasmussen in that core car running very well at the moment, up into 5th place. Obviously penalties have been taken, but still a good showing from the core.
Oh, we got an incident in 2nd place! Incident in 2nd place. Gecko, Vortex, Sim Racing, and Curb Surfer going into the 2nd chicane here, racing side by side. They were good through the first part of it, but going through the 2nd part, I have to say, Vortex cut across the track a bit. I think they cut the nose off that Curb Surfer's car a bit too much and turned themselves around.
Replay then on screen, you could see they were trying to cross the beams down in the curb surface, trying to go around the outside, 2 into 1 then, doesn't go, tries to cut the nose up, but there was certainly no room for Luis Rodriguez to do that one, and in the end he has to drop himself all the way back through the field. That one has certainly played in, and there's even more controversy here as we start to look through the field. Where on earth is that Inex Racing red machine right now? That 0-3 all the way back down the field now has himself an incident to deal with. That one is huge here, Jimmy.
Definitely for the championship at least. I'm just going back now to see what happened to them. Looks like, yeah, they suffered a slowdown at the end of the lap, and that's the worst place to do it. You've got cars just streaking past you on the straight, nothing you can do about it, and that means that Donny Thomas got all to do today at the 3 hours of Imola.
Yeah, certainly does. Replay of the start then on screen. You can see they were incredibly tight trying to get themselves to do with the safety car. You have to stay behind it, even in pit road. Not really too much time to back that field up, and it certainly proved to be beneficial here for the VRS Coanda Simsport number 18. Gap already up over 5 seconds in the opening 5 minutes. That really does show you how this field has gone on. This is how your field looks right now. VRS Coanda Simsport 18, Curb Surfers, then it's Redline Black, Core Sim Racing, and Thrustmaster Movano Red. You look down for a title rival between Redline and Coanda, which we see so often. We look further down, you have to look all the way down to 11th position for INX Racing Red here at the moment, Randy.
Yeah, you really do. So INX Racing Red starting off on the back foot, which is not what they want. Although INX Racing Red has not really started any of these races up towards the front. They've been in the top 10, maybe just out of it basically every single race, but they've not been able to qualify up front the way Coanda has or the way that Core has. So the fact that they're as strong in this championship as they are speaks dividends. So they might be looking weak now, but I'd expect the NX Racing Red machine to come on strong. But Marcus Linderman and Coanda, 5-second gap already. I mean, that is a huge gap after only 4 laps.
It certainly is, and well, this is a very difficult and precarious situation for these title rivals with such a close grid and such differing changes in balance of performance from race to race here, Jimmy. You have to say, for these cars here, the likes of the Curb Surfers, Core Sim Racing, Thrustmaster Movano Red, and even the Pure Racing team, which is very surprising to say as well, when they're not fighting for that championship, you have to say they're all looking to try and get that minimal gain, and it doesn't matter who you are always going to be at risk.
That's right, I mean, especially the championship contenders as well, they're always looking to be as high up the field as possible. And when you look at it, VRS going with that 5-second run, like we said, INX Red, currently down in, I've just lost them on my actual sheet now, they're so far down on the sheet. But they're completely, the gap is only 4 points between the two at the top there. And when you go, okay, let's now put NX down, down to 10th, 11th place, that gap is going to widen exponentially almost when coming up to our last round of the season. That's something we cannot afford to do.
No, certainly can't afford to do. We do have a great scrap though for P3. That is involving that team Redline Black number 36 having to struggle with the car behind. That's Frederick Rasmussen's Core Sim Racing BMW then. Here, that number 24 looking for that opportunity. Now, you can't win the race early on. Arguably, you could say VRS Coanda can here, Randy, by the fact that they've got away and they've manifested that gap, but they have to manage it over these next 3 hours. There's still 2 pit stops that could come into effect, and here, if you're fighting in a train, you can't afford to take someone out, especially which we saw with the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red team.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, especially if you're Coanda, because it doesn't just play with this single race. Of course, in this championship, the way penalties work, if you get dinged once, you get a warning. The second time you get dinged, you get a drive-through penalty at the start of the next race. Coanda got warned after the incident with Thrustmaster at Brands Hatch. That was their first issue all season long, at least the number 18 machine. The number 88 car may have had troubles, but can't really ding the 18 for any troubles the 88 has had. So if you're Marcus Lenderman, Renz Broekman, Jorn Jens, Klaus Kivikas, whoever's going to be driving that today, you want to make sure you are squeaky clean, even if it costs you a win. If you let someone go by, it's much better to finish 2nd, 3rd, 4th position in this race, assuming that gap somehow falls, than it would be to be fighting for that extra position, just those couple points, and get yourself a drive-through going into the final round, which you simply can't afford.
Yeah, you certainly cannot afford that in any way, shape or form, and that will severely shake up the championship if something like that does come into light. The gap between the leaders here, 5.4 seconds right now here, and there are your biggest movers and shakers inside your top 10. And you can see here, Core Sim Racing already up here, 5 positions off the start. Thrustmaster Movano Red's up 3 there, Jimmy's pick. You can see the likes of the Pure Racing team, they're also up 4-5 positions right now, and they've silently gone along in this series, Jimmy. Of course, we know them so well for being up there at the top of 24-hour, 12-hour races, but this 3-hour format, they just seem to have struggled.
It seems that their pace comes from consistency, and not to say that does not benefit you in a 3-hour race, but these sort of shorter races, a shorter format, it relies a lot more on actual out-and-out pace, and in this case maybe they are lacking slightly. Not to say that running 6th and 7th place in the World Championship is a bad thing at all, still a very impressive feat, but when you're used to running up at the top 1st, 2nd, 3rd, anything is going to be worse than that. But still, 6th and 7th place, and they're sort of still in tow of the Movano Red car, my pick, as you mentioned earlier on, which seems to have actually fallen back a little bit from the 2nd, 3rd and 4th place. It's sort of running on its own at the moment.
Yeah, certainly is. Replay on screen then. Mad Racing Buttercup in an instant with Triton Racing. That's Markan Skripjak. They're involved in that. It's just contact coming into Piratella, and we're seeing there a big triple barrel roll and a bit more spinning there on the roof, heading itself there into the gravel trap and into a world of troubles for the 0-1 down on pit lane. That is pretty much over. Same can be said for Buttercup as well. Sorry there, Mad Cow Racing. That one is done, and a fan favourite car as well. And you see these scraps at the back of the field there. That one was a very interesting one. There was a little bit of encroaching onto everyone else's line there, Randy, and that one just ended in tears.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a slight move over, and, you know, that was close racing, and it's really hard to tell whether or not Mad Cow came across or whether or not Triton came across. I'd say Mad Cow came across, but as far as Triton Racing is concerned, 10 out of 10 in the air, but the landing could have been a little better.
Just seeing Hoyksingveld Core Motorsports then getting very comfortably past the car of Mad Cow Racing Bessie there, 2 laps down, having to serve their own form of a penalty. You can see just behind them as well, if they get into this one, there is Inex Racing Yellow, William Levesque behind the wheel right now. So you can certainly say, with a big attrition factor and not as many cars as usual here, only 34 starting this grid here, Jimmy, there is a chance for the likes of Core Motorsports and Inex Racing Yellow to still manage to recover a bit of points here in the remaining parts of this race.
Well, especially with incidents like that. I mean, I was wondering with that Gecko car, the Gecko Vortex car, he actually got jumped by the Triton car, and I'm wondering what it was like from his perspective, just sort of you're driving along minding your own business and the car is flying over your roof. It's something you don't really want to see when you're concentrating on the task at hand. But like you said, attrition is a big factor here, lots of penalties there as well, so including the Core Huskenval guys. And if we see a couple more cars take each other out, it's just going to be more and more positions. This race is still a damage limitation race. When you're starting from the pits with such competitive rivalries, it really is a case of just doing the best you can from the position. You don't say, right, we're going to aim for the wins, like, we're going to aim to do the best we can do. And that's what's happening here today. But there's still a very long way to go. We've only had 15 minutes or so of that from this race. So we've still got the remaining big chunk of this race left. So let's see what they do. I think they're going to see a couple of surprises today.
I think we certainly are indeed, Jimmy, and actually something you need to look at here at the moment, Randy, is this battle between the 2 pure racing cars here, the 73 and the 71, Patrick Pichler behind one, Maximilian Benecke behind the other, and this is a very difficult one because you see, it's going to be McLaren here versus this BMW. It's a difficult one because you can see the BMW isn't sufficient in a straight line. When you look at the McLaren, it certainly is sufficient in a straight line, and trying to pull the other man across down this one into this front straight, Tamburello the prime overtaking opportunity. I don't see a way that Maximilian Benecke is going to get past bar a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the difficult things about this race. Even though over a lap the cars seem to be very close. I mean, it was thousandths of a second in qualifying up and down throughout the field. The problem is when you get into the race, really the best passing opportunity really is going into turn 1 at the end of that long straightaway. And if you're in the BMW or the Mercedes, it's going to be very difficult to make moves on cars like the Audi and the McLaren due to their top-end advantage. There is a car stopped, and which car is that? That's the Coanda, that's Jesse Nieben, and that's the other Coanda car. Oh, I got worried for Marcus there for a second.
Yeah, you certainly do. Getting out of the way of lap traffic then is that VRS Coanda Simsport number 88. Of course, same livery then, doing a very good job of getting out of it. And you could say heart-in-mouth moments then for people saying, oh, look, there's a Coanda car stopped in the middle of the track. Not often you get to say that. Joni Tamala then in that 03 Inex Racing red car, looking for an opportunity then to go down the inside of Riley Preston in the Evolution Racing Australia Blancpain World Championship car. Bit of a mouthful, but can't do it for the moment. You can see Slipstream Train. We see it a lot of the time here, Jimmy. Very difficult to get that overtake to happen. Might have to come down to a very, very good strategy.
Now, I'm actually watching at the moment the battle for 3rd and 4th place between Corsim Racing and Team Red Lion Black. And what you mentioned earlier about the differences in cars, we're seeing that Mercedes with that powerful AMD engine just sort of pulling away from the BMW in a straight line. And as soon as it gets to the braking zone, that Corsim Racing car closes right back in again. Just a complete difference in how the cars are set up and their qualities as machines. And we're seeing now we're going to go down to Aqua Minerali, where I expect the BMW to be stronger on the brakes. Here it is. Yes, nice and sort of strong through there, again closing the gap, and now uphill AMG's to put that grunt down and just pull away going up the hill.
Pass into Piratella as well, though. Inex Racing Red have got themselves back into the top 10. Let's get a replay on screen of this one then. Going side by side, and Danny inside, and not really too much there. Later on the brakes, gets himself through the corner. Lovely there on the curb, and very comfortably through that position. Next up to catch, though, is the Pure Racing Team number 12 car, Florian Voigt. behind the wheel of that one. So Joni Tamala, a lot of work still to do, still losing quite a bit of ground though to the driver of Gregor Hutu in that Team Redline Black machine. You can see already 5 seconds the gap there or thereabouts. And 5 seconds doesn't sound like much. If you put it into clean air, that's a massive margin. When you got 6 or 7 cars in the middle, it doesn't seem that much, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it isn't a lot at the moment, because I mean, you have Redline Black, and then Core a few tenths back, and then Movano's about a second back, and another second you have Pure, and then Pure again, and then NX Blue, and then Pure again, and then NX, and then Evolution, then Orion. I mean, this is an incredibly tight field. One, because they're just evenly paced. Two, because with the long front straightaway, the draft helps keep people really together. The only person who's really been able to stretch a gap on any of their competition has been VRS Coana SimSport, and that gap has actually started to come down. Marcus Lederman's lap times the last couple laps have been slower, and that's now down under 5 seconds for the first time in best part of at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, certainly is. Nikita Gorloff, a 140.622. Compare that to Marcus Lenderman here, a 141.109. That's half a second in that last lap, and Marcus Lenderman ain't no slouch. I'll tell you that right now. So Nikita Gorloff here, a relative unknown here to most people. You don't normally see them running that sort of championship, that sort of series, but really putting himself to the metal. Could see an upset, runs very wide there on the exit. You can run and try and take a little bit out of that AstroTurf there on the outside. And you can see quite a few cars doing that through the Vario Anti-Alta. Interesting to see the times again here, Jimmy, as we look at Nikita Gorloff almost starting to get a little bit of a break here on Gregor Hutu behind the Redline Black, and he's a 5-time world champion.
That's something you can definitely add to your rap sheet, isn't it? Being in front of Gregor Hutu at any race, at any time. But I just saw Nikita take a massive chunk out of the Variante Alta there, like going into the chicane. I was surprised he didn't actually get a slowdown, actually, because it was all 4 wheels on the inside of the curb there. Actually ended up a little bit airborne, which seemed to make it stick. So also, I'm looking at his time from the last lap. His last lap time from the curb surface car was a 140.8. And you go back to Coanda now with Marcus Lederman. He's actually put the pace back up again, the 140.8, so they're matching each other at the moment. But those little off laps are what cost you in these endurance races. If you have an off lap every now and then, it's going to start adding up. It's going to start letting your rivals reel you in. So Marcus has got to make sure that he's on top of that.
Huiksingvel Core Motorsports then back down through the field. Number 33 is now up into 21st position here on circuit, looking to chase down Dark Contigo race team just ahead. Just 2 seconds split those two then in the battle for 20th position. 2 of the very, very quick ones. Now, they came together earlier on in the season, Randy. They came together at Brands Hatch in what was an incident where the blame was, it was a 50-50-ish sort of move, but the blame was put on Huiksingvel Core Motorsports. That's what's put them in that situation today. And you got to know, when you're going to make that move, you got to make sure that you 110% can make the move and can make it stick.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think Core was somewhat placed in an unrealistic position just with the way Jesus was driving at Brands. I don't think there was much way he could actually make a safe pass, but, he did they went for the move, and they weren't able to make it stick, and because of that, Dark Contigo got turned around, and they got penalized. So it has to be going through that Core Motorsports team's mind, though, with Niles Koch, Alexander Boss, and everyone, because of the drive-thrus are essentially guaranteed running around that Dark Contigo car pretty much the entire race, unless Jesus has a mistake at some point and takes himself out of it, or if Core has a mistake and they get shuffled down the order. And you have to tread lightly with that team. It's a team that you've had troubles with in the past, but you can't afford to have another mistake and have yourself a 2-lap penalty slapped onto you going into the Nürburgring if you get into another contact, because that would be their 3rd strike, and that would be the penalty if it was substantiated. And you can come back maybe from a drive-through. You're not coming back from 2 laps, certainly not in this championship.
Certainly can't, though. It's definitely not one of those penalties that is the prettiest, but you have to say it's certainly effective at keeping a car at the back of the field. That one is certainly for sure. Battle going on then behind the number 7. That is the Inex Racing blue car. Dave Geelink behind the wheel, and he's got himself Pure Racing Team 12 and the 03 of the Inex Racing red car. We were talking about team orders earlier on in the broadcast here, Jimmy. This one could come into play if there is an opportunity for Tamala to get through. He's got himself onto the back and manifested a gap to the car behind of Riley Preston's ERA Blancpain WC car. This is a difficult one, and it's a 4-car train.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be an orchestrated mistake maybe from the 7th car when the Inex red car comes up behind him. The red cars. There you go. There's one there from Dave Gilling, getting it very wide there on the exit. Actually, it's going to allow the Pure Racing Team 12 car to get a run going down the hill now. He's going to look to the outside, coming into the double left-hander. Let's see who gives up first, and they're both going to brake sensibly there. No point having a big move at this point in the race. Still a long way to go. That's going to make him very close coming onto the straight here. And that's the difference now between the Audi and the Mercedes in a straight line.
Yeah, certainly we're going to see this slipstream effect into play, then into the right-hand kink then to end the lap. They can see on the left the old Variante Bassa there that used to be the end of the lap. Two side by side goes the car of Florian Royce, Pure Racing Team 12, down to the inside. And you know what? He's going to make this one look like a piece of cake. Now we've got ourselves Inex versus Inex, and we don't often see that one. You can see already Tamala is desperate to find a way through Randy.
Yeah, he's all over the back of Dave Geelink at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised that if the team orders come into play, that they won't come into play soon. They work themselves now through your second chicane through Villanova, then now up towards into Tosa, but the move's not getting done yet. I think you're absolutely right. They're trying so desperately to just make it look, I mean, it's going to happen. We know that the red car is going to get this spot, but they definitely need to be careful with that Mercedes behind them of Riley Preston and Evolution Racing Australia.
Into Piratella then. These two come along. This is the battle then for 9th place on circuit right now. You can see into Acqua Minerale, the first part on the brakes down the hill. Get yourself then back up it once again. You can see Riley Preston certainly not dead and buried right now, handing himself there behind the wheel there of that Evolution Racing Australia Blancpain World Championship car into this next chicane here, the Variante Alta, one of the most notorious. And actually, they're slowing themselves up. They're allowing Orion in. They're allowing Virgil Racing Black to come in. Stefan Muschler behind that wheel. That one is big, and this one is certainly coming as you look at the gaps start to open up. Contact though between the two Inex cars in towards this left-hander Ravazza. This one is showing that there is a little bit of impetulance then from Jody Tamala, Jimmy.
You can't blame him really. I mean, he's completely eager to get past. It's his championship to lose at this point. I've just been watching the battle for second while that's been going on, and it's closed back up again. Curb surface did have a little bit of a gap over that Team Redline black car currently driven by Gregor Hutu. Tamala into the pits, it seems.
Well, not into the pits, but certainly in through on full position there. A little bit of lifting, though, you could say there from Dave Geeling. That could be viewed as something, but now under threat then from the car of Riley Preston heading towards Villeneuve. Now, got to be careful. Going to remain side by side. No, not going to happen at the moment. Down on the brakes, and that one still. Riley Preston looking for that opportunity, trying to set it up. A little bit of a wide line taken by Geeling side by side again into Tota again, trying to set up that line. He's just trying to set it up, but there's no real room here, Randy, to get that move sorted.
Yeah, Dave is really struggling at the moment with that car. We saw him a couple laps ago going through the Variante Alta. He clipped too much of the curb and really almost spun out. We've seen a couple of mistakes already that I think he's much slower than a lot of people that are behind him at the moment. I think he got kind of shuffled up the order with some of the incidents and maybe some of the drive-thrus. I have to say that Evolution Racing car, Fulvio Barzini and the Orion team, and Stefan Muschler and Virtual Racing Black, they're looking a lot pacier than he is, and certainly a lot more confident. He's struggling out there and making all sorts of mistakes. He might be quicker if he can run clean laps, but that's a big if with the way things are going right now.
Certainly is a big if, and Fulvio Barazini certainly no slouch then in that number 9 Orion race team car. We haven't seen them up towards the top of the field like many people could have potentially predicted. We've seen all out through the season that a couple of teams have seen this as just, oh, this is a nice thing that we're doing, let's just stick a car in here and hope we get something out of it. And you certainly can't take that mentality going into it, and we're seeing quite a few teams here start to try and get themselves gearing up for next season, especially this number 14 car, Jimmy. JCL Apex Racing UK looking for that major opportunity next season, not this season. They're really trying to build the foundations to make themselves a powerhouse in sim racing on iRacing.
That's something you'll see in iRacing and across sim racing in general. You'll see a team sort of start out small, so to speak. They'll still run in the league, maybe not run to their full potential, but just get those foundations set, just get a car they're happy with, get those base setups in place before they start really building up and becoming one of the more recognised team, your Inexes, your Coanders. And it may be next season that Apex Racing UK is one of the teams that we will be at the top and we'll be covering. But for now, running in 14th place, doing a solid job keeping out of trouble.
Fantastic fight into Tamburello, Anti-Pajala there for Glacier Racing, Nick Ottinger for the Gale Force Sim Racing team, and Neo Jacobs now looking to go side-by-side for Iberica Racing Interactive 4, side-by-side into Villeneuve, down to the inside, and you know what, he's going to make that little BMW tick. He gets himself through, runs wide on exit though, has to be careful about it, but gets himself through there. Very, very well done there, Randy, from what is Danilo Jacobs.
Yeah, some big scrapping happening down amongst your mid-pack with some of your damaged race cars. Danilo Jacobs, a huge amount of damage on that BMW. Andy Pajala, considerable amount of damage onto that Audi. And actually the two cars behind don't have a lot of damage, but they are laps down. They are cars that had to start from your pit lane. Mad Cow Racing Bessie, driven currently by Scott C. Gray, and Phoenix Motorsports, driven by Rupi Takurla. So those are actually spots for position, and that is a battle. It's just 2 laps down, and unfortunately for those guys, that seems like it would have been an incredible scrap had they been on the lead lap.
It certainly would have been one of those very incredible scraps, and you can certainly see these battles coming in through your field now. Status quo starting to happen right now. You can see Joni Tamala still looking for that way to get to Florian Voigt in the Pure Racing Team 12. And you can see the pace starting to kick up from Florian Voigt for 1:41.3 that last time by though, which is something that you could say has been a little bit slower. You are going to see the tyres starting to just lose a little bit, a tenth here, a tenth there, and it's just one of these things you have to adapt, Jimmy, into these cars. You're not going to be running those Banzai qualifying lap times 100%. You'll wreck the tyres within the space of 5 minutes.
That's true, and what you'll like to see is a couple of drivers out there maybe do 5 or so laps so they're considered quick, and then back off for a lap, let the tyres sort of cool down a bit, get everything composed before going back out there again and pushing at 110%. These Pure Racing teams, number 71 and number 73 car, these cars have been pretty much glued together for the entire race, and watching Maximilian Beneke now in the BMW, watching where he's strong compared to McLaren is quite interesting. It might be actually quite infuriating for him. Coming through the first hairpin of the lap, I watched him close up exponentially on the McLaren just to see it go flying away up the hill again, just due to that power difference there. But now coming down the hill into the double left-hand, and again BMW closing in a little bit, and we'll do it again through the second left-hander. But now watch the McLaren just drive off into the distance with that power advantage.
Certainly will, and actually something else to look at here is that 36 again. It's Gregor Hutu behind the wheel. You can see Core Sim Racing now trying to close and trying to do a very good job, but you can see a little bit of slipstream ahead, gets closer than he has done before. Did manage to get that gap down there, Randy, but not enough to pull itself down into what is an overtaking opportunity. They're right underneath, looking for that opportunity, and at the moment, it's just not quite happening for Frederick Rasmussen.
Yeah, Fred's looking really racy though, and he's been really confident in GT3 as of late. He's been very successful. We've seen him take 3 race wins on the trot in your Blancpain Sprint Series, and he's done it in 3 different cars, one of which was this BMW at Road Atlanta. So Fred, I think, looking a little pacier than Gregor at the moment, but I don't think this is a fight Gregor's going to fight for too long if he feels he's going to be in a bad position, or if it'll put himself in a bad position for the championship. This is a man who, of course, knows how to win championships. If he has to let Frederick go just to make sure his championship hopes stay alive, he will.
Yeah, he certainly will, and that is something that is going to be looked at then later on in this event. We certainly do see a move here, a move there. It does happen quite a bit. You can see down onto the chicane, the Variante Alta again. A lovely run from all 3 of those cars. You can see it all closes up for the curb surface machine in through that tight and twisty middle section of the lap, the middle sector. And you can see as he just gets himself onto the brakes. This is where the McLaren now starts to shine here into the second part of Ravazza, and now open the tanks. And being that close in the slipstream is certainly not helping that BMW. Granted, Jimmy, it's getting that double toe, but not having enough brake horsepower is compromising the run down in towards turn number 1. For all that quick you can be in the middle part of the lap, if you can't find a way through in that section, there's no point.
He is gaining a little bit there, and he keeps just showing his nose to Gregor in front, so look, I'm here, maybe trying to distract him, but obviously the experience of Gregor Hutu is showing they're not letting him bothering one bit. I'm seeing every now and then that the curb surface car seems to be a little bit inconsistent with his lap time. Seems to pull away a little bit, then drops back, pulls away, then drops back. Maybe a result of inexperience. So like we said earlier, Nikita, not a sort of household name, I suppose, in the iRacing community. Maybe looking to make a change there. But these 2 drivers, Frederick and Gregor, giving us a fantastic show. And the consistency of Gregor Hutu is something to be amazed at. I've watched him go through the second chicane, and every time he just taps the gravel on the outside, it kicks up a bit of dust every time in exactly the same place, and it's absolutely amazing to watch.
Yeah, it certainly is. Pinpoint precision then from the finish man. And maybe you could say that Nikita Gulov isn't normally the first choice to do that opening stint here for the curb surfers. You normally see the likes of Denis Grabowski come in. Maybe we're going to see Ilya Molotovchikov come into the car at the next round of pit stops. We're coming up towards halfway right now in this opening stint. 1/6 distance complete. And, well, we've certainly seen quite a few storylines already. You can see Beneke again hounding the back of his teammate Patrick Pichler in that Pure Racing Team 71 machine. And again, you can see just how there's so much difference. But in all of this that's happening, they are actually catching that Thrustmaster Movano red car, Randy.
Yeah, I don't think Max is really all that frustrated due to that. It's not like Patrick's really costing him any time, I don't think, because really where we're seeing Max start picking up the pace is really just coming off the corner, maybe just on the brakes, and in those sections of the racetrack, the McLaren, he starts stretching the gap anyway, so he's not losing a lot of time. All he's really getting in a lot of ways is a lot of draft down this front straightaway. This McLaren might be speeding him up, might be helping him quite a bit, because it doesn't seem like he's braking early, and you know, at a track like this, there's not really a lot of aero push to speak of. The corners, just for the most part, just aren't really fast enough. There's a couple where it might come into effect, but for the most part, probably not all that big of a deal. Might as well just sit behind your teammate, and even though you're different cars, maybe even if you're a little bit quicker, just let him pull you to the cars ahead of Thrustmaster Movano Red, and maybe even up towards towards Core and Redline Black if you're really good. But I mean, I don't think Max is really that irritated sitting behind Patrick right now.
Yeah, certainly not. And something else that does need to be put into question as well is the fuel saving, Jimmy. You save so much by just lifting out of the throttle instead of going for a move. The car at the front of the train certainly has to deal with all of the air, has to punch that hole, and it's so difficult to fuel save at the front, so cars at the front generally get to the hour as their big margin. But those cars behind you, look at what is, say, likes of Maximilian Beneke's Pure Racing Team 73, might be able to go an hour 5, an hour 10, and maybe save some more fuel, and maybe even save the tyres, very similar to Coanda.
It may be this is just a very long-term slingshot for the number 73 car, like you said, saving that fuel, just being behind the McLaren at the moment, and just being dragged along, and they're getting even closer now to that Thrustmaster Movano red car. There's going to be a point soon where that number, the number 12 car,
that point's going to be now.
There you go, yeah, now closing in down the straight. Look at that pull, the McLaren grunt there really coming to play. The Audi completely nowhere to go, trying to defend its line, go to the track, now going to the outside. Inside goes the number 73 car, and that's going to put a little bit of a gap now. They've got the 12 car running on its own. Is he going to try and follow through? Yes, he is. Two cars in one corner. Is he going to go side by side, and the Movano red car lifting out, maybe being a little bit sensible there, but 2 places lost there in a straight in the corner.
Well, you need a Hubble telescope to see that one coming. Maximilian Beneke with a fantastic move down the inside at Tamarello corner there. Came from 4-5 car lengths back. And, well, you talk about Daniel Ricciardo's move on, say, Valtteri Bottas back at Monza. Very, very similar there, Andy. Fantastic dive, and that's great teamwork from the Pure Racing Team boys.
Yeah, and it's like that's exactly what I was saying, because Max was going to always struggle to get around that Audi if he couldn't use Patrick as a pick, just because he wouldn't have the draft, and just because the pace difference is just so large here, especially because Audi teams tend to like to trim that car out. Using this, though, Patrick, he's faster than that Audi in the straight line. Max allows him to really break up the Audi's line, gets him down to the inside, and he just follows them through. That's exactly what Max needs. And that's exactly what they need to do as they go through here. NX Racing Red, though, they seem to be in a scrap with themselves, fighting with Florian Voigt in the third of their Pure Racing Team cars.
Yeah, this is the big scrap then, and it is for championship points, mind you. This is the scrap for 8th place. Pure Racing Team 6, 7, and 8. NX Racing Red, 9th, started the day in 7th, got themselves up through the field, but an early time to slow down as they get close, and there is contact there between the two of them through Ravazza, and that one's only going to slow it down. Maybe a little bit of a brake check, you could argue, there in through the second part of the apex there. Really didn't get the power on as much as he'd like, but Tamala's not going to let that face him here. You can see in that slipstream, moving across then, potentially to the outside, gets himself out, has to do it a long way around then, down on the brakes they go, and again, can't get that move sorted, has to wait behind again, Jimmy. And again, you're seeing that impatience from Tamala. He's not going to get granted everything, but he does have to try and make that fortune for himself.
And this is a team that needs to be very careful in terms of penalties. If another contact here could be disastrous for their championship effort. And that little scrap there has brought the NX Racing Blue Dave Gilling back into the fray as well. So now 3 cars fighting for this 8th place now. The NX Racing red car is the fastest car at the moment, that's without a doubt. But at the moment, the pure racing team car is just defending very well, putting that car in a place where it makes it difficult for the cutback. We saw that at the first corner, just sort of being very slow in the apex, not allowing that red car to get a jump out of the corner. And now coming down to Aquamillerani, let's see all that Audi looking very squirrely over the curb there. Let's see the power difference up the hill between the Mercedes and the Audi. The Audi actually seemed to pull away a bit up the hill there. It seemed the Audi's got a little bit of grunt in there.
Yeah, certainly does have that little bit. Very similar cars, though, the Audi and the Mercedes, into the left-hander. It's very interesting to note, out of your top 5 teams, 3 cars are running that Mercedes. You can see that Audi, only 1 car in the top 5, really running that one. Tamala then, again, close into Ravazza. He comes along, and again, you can see he runs that line a little bit more conservative this time, and now he really does need to get onto that inside, down this front straightaway once again here, as they look to start their 22nd lap of this motor race. You can see here, Randy, getting closer, 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 still trying to punch that hole. You can see he moves hard to the left-hand side of the circuit, doesn't have the ability to go through there, so has to try and do it the long way again, and again, gonna just wait behind, says, you know what, I'm gonna wait for that mistake, and again try to get that cut back, and again, a fantastic block in the middle of the apex.
Tormala has to be careful here because I think he's beginning to get impatient. I think Tormala needs to sit back. He needs to realize, you know what? I'm the points leader in this championship right now, and every single race we've had, we've qualified from the tail end of the top 10, and we found our way to the front. And he can't be making mistakes like he just did going through Tosa, missing that apex. Luckily, he's got a teammate behind it, Dave Geeling, who we don't think is really going to harass him too much. But if he keeps making those mistakes, you're going to bring Riley Preston into the mix, Fulvio Berrezzini, maybe even Stefan Mugler, and those guys won't play as nice with Dave, and they may even try to force moves on you. Yoni Tormala in this NX Racing Red machine, I think, needs to realize that passing Florian is going to be very difficult due to the top-end advantage of the Audi and the fact that he can really just defend every time they go into turn 1 pretty much perfectly. What he needs to do is sit back, save gas, try to jump him in the pits.
Yeah, that is the big one. The number 43 machine, however, has been involved in an incident. That is Darkon Tigo, who has just had himself contact with someone else, just trying to find out where that one is. And Jimmy, I believe you've managed to find it.
It has. It's with the number 10 car there, the Zalem Racing car. Jesus Cecilia at the wheel going through T1, just very aggressive there, bit of a dive if you don't mind my saying, tagging the back of the BMW and spinning him around, and this is the car again which has been involved in incidents, and that's going to go against him. I'm afraid there's nothing to get 100% blame to Jesus. And again, we're seeing that impatience, so they're sort of holding him back a little bit there. I mean, he did have the issue, the penalty at the start to deal with, but coming back from the field like that is not how you're going to win championships.
What's it going to take for them to learn? Because, you know, I'm sorry to cut in here, but Dark Antigo, we saw an incident much like that at Monza. We saw Jesus lose the car at Silverstone. We saw Jesus lose the car at Spa. We saw Jesus get into 3 different car contacts at Brands Hatch. What's it going to take for him to learn that he needs to be a little bit patient, and with that patience, he wouldn't get damaged, he wouldn't get penalties, and he'd likely be running for a championship win?
Yeah, that is the big question here, and most of these guys coming in, maybe some of them don't have that mentality to be maybe an endurance driver. Maybe they still come in with that sprint racing mentality. Of course, we run a Blancpain sprint series here, as well as a GT endurance series that we got right now, and maybe it's that sprint series mentality that's coming in here as we look at the battle between the 73 and the 21 right now. That is pure racing team at number 73 here of what is Maximilian Benecke. Behind him, Mario Bertolotti then of the Crossmaster Ravana red car, still looking for that opportunity to get through, but that mentality, Jimmy, you could say, some drivers, they suit oval, some drivers suit road, some drivers don't suit endurance, and maybe Jesus Cecilia, in his heart of hearts, isn't one of them.
Maybe indeed, but we also have a battle going on, we'll discuss that in a second, between the Pure Racing Team 12 car and the NX Racing red car. Again, that red car looking to Yoni Tamala, trying to still get past the 12 car, right on the back of the Audi now, coming out of the last corner, only a little kink to go in the straight. We've seen a couple of times so far the NX car go to the outside and the 12 go to the inside, and doesn't seem to be any option there for the number 3 car to get past. Again, coming into slipstream, again the 12 goes to the inside. What's Yoni Tamala going to do? He's going to go to the outside. Can he? He's a lot closer than he has been. Still side by side going to the braking zone, coming up, no, getting his nose cut off by the Pure Racing team 12 there, as is entitled by them, defending our line, and again still behind that 12 car. But to very quickly go back to your point, Jake, racing by definition is a selfish sport, and there are some people who come in with that perspective and refuse to see it any other way. You're in a team game here in the Endurance Series. You're letting down your team and other drivers when you put in contact like that. And I'm sure in time, Jesus will learn that, but at the moment, the message doesn't seem to be getting through.
Yeah, at the moment, but you have to say, Joni Tamala right now still looking for that opportunity. And Randy, I'm just starting to think of a way he might get through. You're seeing there the second part, the final part of going through. You can see he moved back across knowing the man was there on the right-hand side. There was Florian Roy. Maybe he just needs to lift ever so slightly when he gets right back to the bumper, then put the power down again, move to the left-hand side of the circuit, and maybe it's going to have to take an innovative move like that to get that move sorted. Otherwise, he's going to have to wait for pit stops, and 22 minutes of a wait is really something that does affect your time in a race.
It is, but at the same point, they're catching the cars out in front. They're running 2 to 3 tenths quicker than the Thrustmaster Movana red car, and yeah, they're a few tenths slower per lap than the pure racing team cars, but they're not running bad times. And Florian Voigt, yeah, he's struggling. He's definitely holding Joni up, but Joni with the championship lead right now needs to be smart. He needs to be calm and needs to be mature. They still have a drop week they can burn here. They really haven't had a bad result all season long. Not quite sure what their worst finish is. I'll actually get us some data on that, but coming down your front straightaway, he gets the run, and oh, is Florian going to open the door this time? Very good move there by Joni to back out of that, realize that wasn't worth it, and as you say, Jake, he just gets back into line. Joni just needs to realize that he doesn't want to get themselves a penalty, doesn't want to get themselves anything going into doesn't want to basically sacrifice this race just going for a single position when we haven't even hit the hour mark yet. Save your aggressive moves for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah, that is iron boot defending there from Florian Voigt. And you know what? He had every right to do that. Held his line perfectly at Tamala. Great tenacity to back out of it. Not many drivers would do that. And again, you can see Mario Bertolotti's time at 1:41.3, 1:41.5 this time. So that gap stuck at around 6 seconds at the moment, Jimmy. Not enough to really catch up this group of three right now. And especially with Pure trying to force the matter up at the front, they've got themselves Patrick Pichler really trying to push through. This one's going to be a big one. And you can see these gaps certainly starting to open up here in your mid-pack of your field.
It's the result you get when you start having people fight. Times will come down, even if it's just looking in the mirror and make sure you're defending from the guy behind. This one I mentioned again, Florian Voigt's defence at turn 1 was outstanding. He left just enough room for that NX Racing red car if he did want to go up the inside, but enough to sort of say that if you do go for this, we're both going to be taken out of the race quite firmly there, which is why we didn't see that 03 car go for the move. But again, Florian Voigt kicking the tail a little bit there at the last corner, maybe giving a bit of an advantage to that NX Racing red car, but not quite close enough. He seems to be a little bit closer than this, but we've seen moves come from further back today. Let's see what he does now. Joni Tamala again goes to the outside as the Pure Racing team goes to the inside. Joni Tamala trying something a bit different now, braking a little bit earlier. Now he's going to have a bit more of a shot coming through here because he has to take a bit of a tighter line. I'm not sure it's going to be a move made here, but still very close between these two drivers.
NX Racing's worst finish so far this season has been 5th place. It really does show you how they've been pushing it, and again getting close at the moment. Currently 8th right now, scrap for 7th. Scrap for 9th, 8th going on right now. They're currently 9th. So you can really see here just how Joni Tamala is just trying to find that gap. Still not finding it, still not getting that way through. We've seen him 4 or 5 laps in a row now try and make that move. Certainly hasn't happened right now. There are still scraps going on through your field, like this train going on here in second, 3-car train. Nikita Koloff, the curb surfers. You got yourself Gregor Hutu, the 5-time champion in a single-seater car there in what is that red line black machine. And you got Frederick Rasmussen, of course, sim racing right now. Gap at the front, 8.4 seconds. It's certainly opened up, and it's a huge lead at the moment, Randy.
Yeah, Marcus is doing an absolutely wonderful job at the moment. I'm friends with him, and Marcus is a really young guy, and he was really nervous coming into this. A lot of pressure on someone coming into a world championship, and he's handling it absolutely flawlessly. And, you know, what more can you ask from someone? He's still a teenager, and you put him out here amongst the best, amongst some of the most experienced out there in the world, and he just answers flawlessly for both himself and his team. Hopefully they can carry the same confidence throughout the rest of this race and then into the Nürburgring.
Yeah, certainly do. And, well, you sort of say this is the big thing about sim racing. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. You can certainly mince it with the big boys if you are there and if you do have that pace. And, well, to be signed to a team like Koana, you certainly say you are one of the best in the world if you do that. Of course, one of the few teams to be up in that Premier sort of fighting category. And we are seeing now more and more teams here, Jimmy, start to come up to the fold. You look at Pure, who have always been this GT3 category team. They've got themselves 3 cars inside the top 10. You look at likes of Thrustmaster Movano, they've always been knocking on the door somewhere. Core Sim Racing knocking on the door. Curb Surfers, out of absolutely nowhere, they're second right now, and it hasn't been since Monza where we've seen this sort of result from a McLaren.
When we're saying that, they are still under pressure from that Team Redline black car. Greg Hutu piloting that still. A very close game coming through the very end of Alta, but to quickly just go over your point again, teams come and go in sim racing, and those that stay around, you know there's some sort of special breed in there. Again, your pure racing teams, your Coandis, your Cores, who are to me relatively new the core team for this season anyway. I haven't seen them around before that, but I'm not too much into the GT3 scene myself, so it's not really my my speciality. But now the McLaren showing its strength again on the straight line. And this is the beauty of this series, having 4 different cars in the series. I think it's 5 technically, but 4 cars on track at the moment. And just seeing the difference between them and how that comes and goes over a single lap, the same sort of lap time. We saw 2 cars with exactly the same qualifying time today, and they were 2 completely different cars with 2 completely different setups, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it certainly is one of the spectacles of endurance racing. This is why we see it. Joni Tamala again, not as close this time by, but still looking at Tamburello as that main opportunity to get through the third part of Tamburello. Now the run to the Villeneuve chicane here, named after Gilles Villeneuve, of course, the former Ferrari driver in the 70s and the 80s. Into the left, into the right-hander, then they come along a little bit tighter, and again you can see here, you can get yourself very, very easily kicking that tail out here, kicking that tail out there. We've seen Florian Voigt do it 1 or 2 times already today, Randy, and maybe that's starting to play on the rear tyres.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could. This is a relatively slick racetrack, and there's a lot of corners here that are relatively slow where you need to be able to put the power down on exit, and if you start cooking the rear tires, you really start to struggle. One thing that Mercedes is good at is good at getting the power down, but it's once you start cooking those tires, they tend to go very quickly, the Mercedes being the heaviest out here of the bunch. The Audi can be relatively similar, but it doesn't tend to have the mechanical grip the Mercedes has before those tires go. Plus, it doesn't play as nicely over the bump, so it can be easy to overheat those tires. One thing I have noticed over the past several laps, though, as we close in on their first round of pit stops, right now we're probably about 15 to 20 minutes out, maybe a little bit more than that. Joni Tormala in the NX Racing Red Mercedes has sort of calmed down behind Florian Voigt and is just settling in towards the end of this first stint.
Now, the big thing looking at this is they are actually starting to build a gap to Dave Geelink here, starting to put the buffer for NX Racing Blue, that gap up to about a second now, second and a bit here. It's a 9-second lead at the front, 9.5 seconds to Coanda Simsport, number 18 as well. If you're looking at the back of the lead, of course, we also have timing, Racebot TV/timing. You can go there and check out where all your favourite drivers are here and there throughout the field. We have lost ourselves, though, a few drivers today. Jimmy, we've lost Virgil Racing Yellow, Triton Racing, we've lost Mad Cow, Buttercup, Thrustmaster Movano Black, and the other VRS Coanda Simsport card of number 88.
Hopefully those guys have dropped weeks to spare for there, because obviously a DNF is the worst possible result you can ask for. A lot of those people caught up in the instant at the start of the race, and just a couple of laps later on. There are still a couple of guys still running low, a bit further down the field, who have served penalties. The Mad Cow Racing Bessie car 2 laps down, same with the Phoenix Motorsport and Team Redline Green, all 2 laps down, sort of running their own little race. And I'm just being told now that Jesus has spun.
Yeah, Jesus Cilia then having a
and on the pit road.
Yeah, nightmare day. Yeah, it's a very early one, and if he's going to call it an end of the day, well, it would be a time to do it, and I think he might be very, very frustrated under that car. Spin at the Variante Alta. Don't often see that happening, but, you know, he was around about this number 33 machine we need to look at, the Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports car, now up into 17th position, has got past the TTLR Next Level Racing car. That's Dylan Sharman there behind the wheel, so at the moment, Core are actually making some great progress through the field right now, Randy. They're only 40 seconds back off the lead, and if time continues to go the way it's going, and these battles continue to go on, you know, their pace hasn't been bad. They're really finding themselves a way back into this one.
Yeah, and not to count them out either. NX Racing Yellow is just 1 spot behind, so they're both doing a great job. 83 and the 86, though, are fighting really hard. That's Gale Force and Iberica side by side here as they go up into the double right-hander, and Phoenix is back there putting their nose into the mix. And those two cars back there, Scott C. Gray and the Mad Cow Racing Bessie, Rupi Turkala and Phoenix Motorsports, like I said, cars that are 2 laps down, they're fighting for position as well. They're not in position to race for the win, but the thing you have to remember, coming down to the end of the season, you're talking about your World Championship license life. Here, I believe it's the bottom 15 drivers have to requalify, and both, I think, Mad Cow Racing and Phoenix Motorsports are somewhere near that cutoff at the moment. They need as many points as they can. As I say that, Rupi makes a slight mistake here down into your final corners, and that's going to stretch the gap back out.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Rupe Tequila is one of those drivers who knows what to do in any given situation. You can see those gaps open up. Danilo Jacobs, you can see the bonnet is open on that Iberica Racing Interactive 4 machine right now. Nick Ossinger there, just getting himself that gap here, the scrap for 22nd here on the field right now, and you can see over a minute already to your race leader, really to show you how you can easily get away in this one. And well, looking through your field, we've certainly seen some fantastic battles right now, but this is one that's a little bit understated. You can see Stefan Mouchela at the back, Virgil Racing Black, that's number 77, looking to get back here. Jimmy to the number 9 of the Orion race team here, battle for 12th going on. Actually just ahead of them, Joni Tamala again, very close to the back of Florian Voigt. This could be the moment.
It could be, just sorting that now. And Florian, of course, been very stout in his defending so far, but only now coming and picking up the slipstream. Will he go to the inside this time, or will there be another defence that's looking at the inside? The lines, that door's been well and truly closed there, but that number 12 car again going to the outside, and again the position. But very deep, very shallow entry there into the chicane. And now Johnny's going to go around the outside now from the inside for this left-hander, and that is position gain there in the LX Racing red car. He has finally passed that 12 car, but it isn't over coming down the chicane. The 12 car now backing out of it, and the number 3 car. There you go. Finally, I think the only time we'll be saying in the cockpit, have finally overtaken that 12 car.
I think he listened to what Jacob for what to do.
There are moments that define seasons, and that could just be that one very moment then. So Joni Tamala up into 8th position, past Florian Voigt, but now he's got to try and break away, and that's going to be the difficult factor here, Randy. You look at this one, you look at exactly what's going to happen. Now the advantage is going to be the other way down the straight. Maybe we were saying Joni Tamala was struggling to find a way through. If he can break away right now, find a second somewhere around these next few laps, that's it. He's gone. And then he can chase down Thrustmaster Movano red ahead. The gap is 7 seconds, but has to run those 41 half lap times. At the moment, currently running 42 flats. Needs to find quite a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, he got it. He got what he needed. Florian Voigt coming through very anti-Alta. He caught a little bit too much of the curb on exit, and he got loose, and now the other in exit, and he gets spun. Little bit of a touch there, and I have to say, Florian started to come back across, I think, on NX Racing Blue. I think Dave was on the curb. Dave could not move any more to the right. Florian, I think, cut across. Dave there 100% on Pure Racing Team, turning them to cross their nose.
Replay up on screen, and you can see all the way back from the variante outer, all over the curb, and then looking into this right-hander. Oh, a little bit of contact there, and it's just enough to send Florian Voigt there just around into it, and that one has really affected it. He's down onto pit road, and that is so devastating for the PRT number 12. He's going to drop himself a multitude of positions, but it does elevate everyone else up through the field there. And for the likes of NX Racing Yellow here, for the likes of also Huxindale Court Motorsports, you could say, Jimmy, this one is a benefit.
Is any position is a benefit at this point. Very unfortunate there for that Pure Racing car. They were running well. Things just went from bad to worse very quickly there. I think the idea of losing 2 positions in one lap really wasn't going to be acceptable, and maybe coming across a bit too early there for that instant, which is a massive shame for them. But we're seeing at the moment, yeah, the Huskenveld and Odox not too far between the two, just about over a second at this point. And Nils Koch doing a very good job on that Huskenveld core car, coming back through the field, doing solid 41s at the moment, which is good pace, and at the moment running in 16th position.
16th position at the moment is going to be some very nice points, but I can certainly see this one growing a little bit more. You look at that lap time of a 41 flat, you're looking at around the curb surface, Team Redline Black, so running up with the leaders is certainly some benefit here at the moment for Niels Koch right now, as he heads himself into this right-left variante outer over the big sausage curbs, and he's a lot tighter compared to the Odox Motorsports car. That's Christian Manzano there behind the wheel of that, heading down towards Ravazza. Here's where we saw that instant just a lap ago. And you can see it's close, it's getting closer, and he is being very, very clinical here, this German outlet team, as they try and make their way back through the field, Randy.
Yeah, and I think most of these guys that are behind are going to know who's coming through. The number 9 coming down pit road, though, that's the Ryan Race team. That's a little bit early, not even at the hour yet. So I think for the likes of Vodox, the likes of all the teams in front, they're smart guys. They're going to know when they're beaten. Those core guys have been 8/10 quicker basically every single lap. I mean, last time by it was 6/10 that Core took out of them. So I think once they get to him, they'll likely just let him go. No point in really fighting with them. You don't really have much to gain because they're just going to jump you at some point anyways. And I think that's going to be the saving grace for Core. From where they are now to the front, there are a lot of smart teams and a lot of smart drivers that know when discretion is the better part of valor. Same goes for NX Racing Yellow as well, who's currently 2 spots back. They currently have their sights on TTLR Next Level Racing. William Levesque, though, I think that's going to be a pretty easy one for him. Dylan Sharman is sort of an honorary NX driver, so that should go down fairly easily as well.
Yeah, certainly should. And actually, something quite ironic that I'm just seeing on track. You look at where Florian Roy's just come back out of again, and he is right back in the same pack that he was where that incident occurred just a couple of laps ago. So that one hasn't really worked out for him right now. Tamala has broken away. His last lap time, a 41.3. You compare that to Mario Bertolli there, did a 40.9. You can really see they are starting to try and put that pressure on here. This second pack here that's trying to get themselves through this one. Maximilian Benecke there, Patrick Pichler, so 2 Pure Racing Team cars, and Frostmaster Mavana Red. That one is going to be a crucial one. They can see coming out is the Orion Race Team car out of pit road. So you can say 1 lap here, Jimmy, is enough for a pit stop.
Yes, just about. And it was interesting to see, like you said before, and Wolf getting back involved in that group again. Ideally, he would want some clean air, but you know, as things go, sometimes you just end up back where you started. I'm watching Mario Bertolotti at the moment. Sorry, he's been running with these guys in the Pure Racing cars for quite a while, actually, sort of running at the back, harrying them a little bit. But I think now it's going to be time to get the hurry up for the number 71 car, currently driven by Patrick Pitcher. He's been sort of dragging along Maximilian Benecke for the best part of this race, actually. I think probably about 50 minutes, and having someone else in the scene is going to be difficult for their plans. But at this point, still running well, still running in 5th and 6th place for Pure Racing guys, so a good solid result for them if they finish here.
Yeah, certainly will be a solid result, and you can see up the hill they go, coming up 200 kilometers an hour plus 210. 215 onto the brakes they go, down into this right left. You can see a little bit of a wiggle there from that car ahead. That is Patrick Pichler, and you can see just getting unsettled over that corner. We've seen a couple of spins here and there from there, but you know, Randy, this is one of those tracks. The Variante Alta is always very difficult, and those high sausage curves, they're there to try and stop those corner cuts, and they certainly do work.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they upset the cars as well as everyone coming back to the pit lane. We're getting ready to hit that hour mark. We're about 2 laps out, so people are going to be starting to hit the pit lane here relatively soon, we think. 3rd and 4th also starting to heat up. Team Redline Black and Gregor Hutu starting to get under attack from that BMW of Fred Rasmussen behind. And I think for Gregor at this point, his saving grace earlier when he was dealing with Fred was that Curb Surfers McLaren, was relatively close and providing a good amount of draft. Now, Fred is going to essentially have full draft, and Gregor's not really going to be getting much from that McLaren out in front. Because of that, it'll make things much easier for Fred, but look at the torque that Mercedes has coming out of that corner, that uphill left-hander there, able to get on the power a little bit earlier and drive out of it as they go up into Piatella.
Yeah, fantastic work there from Gregor Hutu. Heads himself down the hill looking towards Acque Minerale, one of the iconic corners here around the circuit of Imola, and there you can see down the brakes, lovely, just clipping that curb there on the inside, gets himself a nice and comfortable run out. Not really too much to worry about here, hasn't been effectively challenged as such here, Jimmy, but you know, the pressure's still there, and it's constant, and the more that you have pressure on a car, the more that a car is going to keep themselves there. 9th and 10th again, Jimmy, incredibly close.
Yeah, I'd argue that that's where champions are made, and obviously Gregor showing his class here. But yes, 9th and 10th is the NX Racing Blue car and Evolution Racing Australia car. Been very close. That Australian car in that terrific yellow and black livery has been doing pretty well, been pretty solid for this race, consistency-wise. Just getting onto the back of that number 7 car now, and I'm just being told that Lenderman is pitting.
Yeah, the race leader
And
then
there's
coming
Hutu.
in quite early, you could say, heading just before the hour. And that is something that we weren't really expecting here, Randy. They normally try and run a very long stint. The second stint's going to be the key here. Maybe they're trying something a little bit different just because they don't need to try something revolutionary to get back into the race.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and Jorn Jens is getting into that machine, and this is where we've seen Jorn typically get into this car. I don't think we've seen a single Coanda driver yet do a double stint on the opener. Normally the double happens on the end. Important to also note, Jorn is the one who's been making the calls on the double stints on the tires. He's the one who made the call at Silverstone, and he drove the middle stint to be able to hold on to those tires to give the good tires to Renz at Brands Hatch to salvage themselves a second place finish. So, what can Mr. Happy Face Helmet do here? Are they just getting themselves a short pit stop, or are they maybe thinking they have a big enough gap to the rest of the field that they don't really have to think about strategy and just have to make this a clean two-stopper to the end? As Gregor's actually getting out sooner, so this is going to be an undercut from Gregor, it looks like. Advantage now for Redline Black, but undoubtedly advantage later on for Coanda, unless there's questions in terms of maybe speeding on pit lane.
Yeah, this is the big one then. Gregor Hutu also comes in before the hour. An undercut strategy now. The curb surfers and core sim racing. There's going to be the questions that need to be asked. Hutu's in clean air. Now that's going to filter through the radios in about the next 5 to 10 seconds. And now the big decision has to be done through this next section. Is anyone going to come in here as the hour mark ticks by? Answer is yes, we're going to see a cover then. The undercut's going to try and be stopped here, Jimmy, by core sim racing.
Yeah, Core coming in there, and a lot of, I think maybe Frederick's pace is what we mentioned earlier about being in the draft. BMW fast in the corners, not so much in a straight line, but he was being pulled along by Gregor Hutu and now coming in to cover that. I'm very interested to see where Coanda will come past here, considering they had a very long start. I wonder if Core are going to jump Coanda in the pits, and I wonder whether we're going to see that black car come through.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing, but big news coming in, and it's going to be about Redline here because, Randy, no tyres.
Yep, this is the second team, the second of our front runners seen this season that we've really seen make this call, and that's no tires, and this is the first of the front running Mercedes we've seen doing it. I think we're going to see a Redline Black come out up towards the front. We don't think there's any way you can realistically triple stint these tires. They simply drop off too much. Only about 42 seconds, and that's right in the window when you would expect people to be skipping rubber. The thing that's going to be interesting to note, though, is Coanda will be out there on new tires. So if a plethora of people decide to do the Coanda strategy of skipping them, they'll be able to make up realistically a full stint's worth of time on that new rubber as opposed to everyone else who may be trying to double stint. In my opinion, this is a mistake on Redline Black. Typically, if you're going to double stint, you want to do it at the end of the race, because typically that third stint, when you're talking about a 3-hour race and you're going just over the hour mark on a stint, that third stint will be the shortest, and because of that, you'll lessen the time you spend on those old tires, lessen the time you need to spend out there on track. Now, you're essentially making yourself spend as long time as possible on older tires.
Yeah, you certainly do. Frederick Rasmussen then coming out of pit road right now and behind Gregor Hutu by a while, behind Jorn Jens behind a while. So really coming back into their own. We've also seen cars coming in, Thrustmaster Mavana Red coming out, Patrick Pisha's Pure Racing Team 71 also coming out of pit lane. So we are starting to see here, these guys aren't running that hour as religiously as we've seen. We've seen quite a few cars come in, and this one is going to be one that does need to be seen moving on forward, and we see quite a few guys looking for that opportunity. Hoiksveld Core, though, they're coming in pretty early and a lot on the brakes there, Jimmy.
Yeah, be very careful in this pit lane here. It's one of the longest pit lanes you come across. I think it's about 40 odd seconds coming down the pit lanes for or coming and stopping and stop and go here, so I don't want to be doing that and adding to your time. And they're currently in 4th place. Obviously pit stops need to filter out before we know what happens there. We're hearing that the Unix Red guys have changed drivers, so that is going to be Jack Sedgwick now getting in the car in that number 3 machine to see what he can bring to the table. I'm wondering now where what Curb Service is going to do. They came in as well. They're away. Curb Service is a pretty quick stop from them. I didn't
42
see
also no tires, I don't think, as well. I'm going to check right now.
Possibly no tyres as well from Nikita Gortlov. Sorry, Jake.
Yeah, certainly. You can see right now, here comes Gregor Hutu down the front straightaway. Where is that Curb Surfer's car coming out of pit lane? And you know what? has the net race lead here, but the big question is, will those no tyres come into play? This is a huge one. You can see Inex Red there, Jack Sedgwick. We don't normally see him behind the wheel on this second stint, Randy, so this is a big change, and you can see lots of cars trying to get themselves in, trying to get themselves out. Maximilian Benecke now gets himself out for the Pure Racing Team 73. We are seeing quite a few big changes that we don't normally see here.
Yes, we really are, and Jack Sedgwick, like he said, we don't usually see him early on in the race. Granted, we've only actually seen him run once, and that was at Brands Hatch, and he did that final stint. He's the one who got into that incident with Bono Huiz in that Team Redline Green car, though. Maybe they're thinking they just want to have Yoni in for that final stint and have that ace driver. Jack's certainly good, but Yoni is great, and because of that, I think it's a wise decision to get him in at the end. But there can be a lot of pressure on you to run a fantastic middle stint here. So how will Jack deal with the pressure? He dealt with it beautifully at the Brands Hatch. How can he deal with it here? Other notable driver swaps as well. Heinzfeld Core Motorsports, Alexander Voss is in that machine.
Yes, and also they've managed to get the jump on Antoine Higeland there of the JCL Apex Racing UK car. So they get themselves up another position at the moment. I'd say net 16th. Possibly 15th right now as they look to try and push themselves through the field, and they're not losing too much time, and that's the key factor here as they're going to get themselves to the likes of Gianluca Bernardelli here in the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red just ahead, Florian Voigt there just ahead a lap down, Kimi Asuminyemi there for the Virgil Racing Black as well just ahead of them. So coming up with a bit more traffic here. Jimmy, we're starting to see this. Core are actually coming back into this race.
They are, and this is what makes a championship team, if you ask me. The ability to use any situation and get back to the top of the field here. And like I said, they've come out on an absolutely perfect spot. And getting into that clean air on the in-lap and the out-lap is crucial to making up time in the pit stops there. And for Alex Voss in the car, we know his skill, we know he's very quick in this Audi. And over the next stint or so, we're going to see, I think, how this race is going to pan out. But at the moment, it is Curb Servers leading the race from Team Redline Black. Only 2 seconds in it now, so that gap has come down. But I wonder what sort of times we're going to see from those guys in the tyres. I'm looking at Gregor Hutus. His last lap was a 1:41.7, which isn't... it's sort of a little bit off the pace he was doing beforehand, but bear in mind now that tyre is full of... that car is full of fuel with the same tyre, so it has to be a little bit slower.
And compared to Coanda, who just did a 40.8?
That's a second a lap, so maybe in the next 15 laps, possibly looking over the next half an hour, Redline Black could be in a little bit of trouble, but they do have that one big benefit, and we talk about it a lot here, Randy. It's that engine power. That front straightaway is going to be that big overtaking opportunity, and being in that little BMW, you have to say it's the big hindrance, and it's the big what-if for VRS Coanda.
Well, I think for VRS Coanda, I think they are in a phenomenal position because two of the top 3 teams that they were fighting with here in terms of pace have decided to go on old tires here middle in the stint. And here's what you can see. Now Coanda on new tires, they can see what happens to Redline Black and what happened to Curb Surfers over the course of this stint. Because of this, Redline Black and Curb Surfers have effectively made themselves guinea pigs. So if they see this work, Coanda can just say, oh, okay, well, we're going to skip tires too because it seemed to work for those guys. And guess what? We're in a lighter car that is traditionally better on tires than the Mercedes or the McLaren is. So, and they've done it twice before in the championship and it's worked flawlessly. I think doing this in the middle of the stint is a huge mistake because you're going to lose all sorts of time to the people who just took tires. And like I said earlier, this is going to be one of the longest stints of the race. You want to save it to the end so that people can't see how it affects you and so that people don't make up huge amounts of time in that full hour-long stint. You want to try to keep it down to about 50 minutes, 45 minutes. Because just think, if you save it for the third stint, you pit at like, what, an hour and 5 minutes there. You're talking a 50-minute stint as opposed to that extra 15 minutes. And that is a big difference on old tires, not only in distance, but in fuel load.
Yeah, it certainly is. It just seems for me that Redline and maybe also the Curb Surfers have just flipped over their king and just waiting for Coanda to flip the ace and say, you know what? Good game, boys. I'm going to take the money and the chips from the table right now.
Oh, yeah. Curb Surfers! Oh, almost spinning through the Variante Alta.
Oh, you can see that time that's going away for the Curb Surfers now. Pressure is doing in. Replay on screen all over that first curb, which has meant that he was sideways through the second part of the Variante Alta. Gap down to under a second, and Jimmy, here we go. Pressure telling, 5 times closing.
I mean, for anybody seeing on your relative screen the name of Gregor Hutu behind you is something you really don't want to see. And now that Merc having to put up with the McLaren power, not quite as quick in a straight line, but I've noticed anyway on the last lap before this incident that Gregor Hutu was faster than the curb surface car. He took 3 tenths out on the lap there. There he took a second out with a mistake there from the curb surface car. And now the switch trim is going to be taking effect. Having a couple of instances is going to put a little bit of doubt in the mind of the curb surface car. And at this point it's just looking backwards, and maybe it would be beneficial at this point not to push too hard in that number 06 car. If you don't be pushing too hard and maybe making a mistake on those old tyres, because they can bite you. And again, Gregor Hutu just kicking up a little bit of dust on the outside there. Flawless consistency, and look where it's getting him now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Curb surfers by name, curb surfers by nature then. After that last lap, you can see Hutu closing in, reeling in that gap to the McLaren. And of course, the McLaren traditionally not the best on its tyres. Into Piratella, taking that a little bit more tighter there and running those curbs a little bit more aggressively. It actually does damage the tyres a little bit more. You are putting more pressure on it, especially if you're getting 2 wheels up off the ground, Randy.
Yeah, because you tend to just slide a little bit more, and it's not overly hard on the tires, but I think the main problem is the risk you take with kicking that car sideways, because that's really when you start to overheat the tires. Something interesting to note here, Jorn Jen's pace has really dropped off. We saw him run a 40.8 early on in the stint. Granted, his first lap was a 41.2. He's just dropped off 41.3 and 41.3. Is Jorn Jen saving? Is he saving fuel? Is he saving tires here? He's in a position where he doesn't really need to push, and only 12 seconds off redline and curb surfers. He's also in a position where if he doesn't close up, he can just do the same thing and skip tires and almost certainly be quicker than redline black and curb surfers out in front. I have a feeling they're just being a little bit calm and cool and collected here. Curb surfers, though, well, was double stinting the right choice. Redline black is stalking, and Gregor Hutu the man on a mission right now.
Gap across the line down to half a second here in this opening stint, or in this second stint of this race. A very ragged, you could say, the curb surfers right now. Nikita Gorloff behind the wheel of this one, fighting it out with Gregor Hutu in that 36 red line black machine. Third place at the moment, that's VRS Cool and a SimSport 18. That's Jorn Jens behind the wheel, and of course was net leader. First of the cars to take tyres. Gap down though to the leaders is under 11 seconds right now. A 140.8 last time by. Certainly closing in that gap, but we certainly do see a lot more moving forward here. And where you can see Fredrik Rasmussen there in 4th position, losing time. Pichler, Benecke and Bertolotti though, Jimmy, they're all still together and all in the same position.
They'll all come out in the same place, and I wonder now for Bertolotti if he's thinking maybe it's time to get something, make a move here, because he's still been sitting behind these 2 Pure Racing team cars for a while now. Patrick Pitcher still leading it, and still leading Maximilian Benecke, still giving him a little bit of a draft, but that Thrustmaster Ivana red car, my pick, obviously, it's looking quite fighty at the moment. It's looking like it may be time for a position change, but at the moment we're going around the stern into Aquamilarani. Again, you've seen the cars rely on the mechanical grip for the last part of that course, and McLaren then putting away up the hill, using that power up the uphill section. Coming up to the Variante Alta, the chicane that we saw a curb surface car nearly spin out a couple of laps ago. And look how aggressively the BMW can attack that in comparison to the McLaren. Just the cornering speed is completely hooked up in that BMW today.
Yeah, it certainly is. Hoixing Velcor Motorsports then has found their way through on the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing red car. Gianluca Berlardinelli can't find a way through, and he's lost that position. Alexander Voss now trying to get a way through on the Pure Racing Team 12. That's Florian Voigt, who is back in position once again. And now you could say there is going to be a fantastic scrap. Pure versus Core. We've seen it all the time in the VLN here, Randy. This is a battle that has gone on all year long, and it's going to happen again.
Yeah, these teams are used to fighting with one another, but most notably, Core is used to fighting with Max Benecke, who's a little bit up the road. Florian is usually a little further down the order in that GT3 field, and I have to say, I don't think Florian is really going to fight with them too much here. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to wave the PRT flag and be able to hold his position, but he's out there, he already has damage, and he has a team that he knows has to be aggressive here, because here's the thing with Core, they've already burned a drop week after what happened at Silverstone. Because of that, they really have nothing to lose here. Yes, they need to be safe, but if they get a bad finish here, their championship is over anyways. They need to make moves, and here he goes to the inside. Move made easy. Probably a bit of aero damage on that Pure Racing Team car, given the shape of the wing. So easy move for Alexander Voss. He moves himself up in the field.
Yeah, he does. And now looking at an opportunity past Asumanyemi right now here. Through Toza, they come along. Asumanyemi trying to get that opportunity. Actually, Voss loses another position. Well, actually, Voith loses the position running wide. Bernard and then he goes through for the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing red car. So you could say Voith struggling a little bit here, Jimmy, starting to lose a few positions.
Yeah, maybe down to damage as well in the car from the incident earlier on in the race. Just wanted to mention very quickly that VRS Coanda, the speed difference now between tyres and not tyres, are 147.7 for the last lap there of Jorn Jens, 141.0 for this lap, and for Nikita Gorlov, our leader, is 141.7, so 7 tenths there in that last lap. That gap is coming down. I'm starting to think that strategy for taking tyres in the middle, not quite, or not taking tyres, not quite as clever as you may think, as watching again the curb surface car taking as much road as possible in the exit lane. Now down to the hairpin. How close to that red line black car? Very close is the answer. We're going to see the McLaren disappear up the hill here, but Gregor Hutu all over the back of that McLaren.
Parts of that could be down to the traffic that they've just had to try and negotiate. It's never easy trying to get through, especially on a tight circuit like this. Into Piratella then. These two leaders come along. Hutu versus Gorloff then. The curb surfers versus Team Red Line Black at the moment. Into the right hand they come along. This is Acque Minerale. Second part of it up the hill. You can see close, Randy, but still not quite close enough.
Yeah, it really is close, and Gregor is just stalking there, but I have to agree with Jimmy completely. I don't think this was a good strategy call for those guys at all, because right now it's pretty apparent to me that it's really not working at the moment. They're simply losing too much in terms of lap time. I mean, it was a 14 to 15 second time difference between themselves and Coanda when they exited the pits. Now it's just down to 8 seconds, and it's only been 4 or 5 laps, and yeah, Coanda could maybe do the same call next time out, but at this point, there's no way you can make these tires last for a full 3 hours, and if you do, you're going to be losing so much time compared to even a team like Coanda, who we know may skip tires. So even if Coanda skips tires next stop and you do as well, you're just going to lose all sorts of time anyways. So
yeah, that is going to be the one big thing. Gap coming down, 7.5 seconds. We are going to take you on board with the 5-time single-seater champion. That is Gregor Hutu on Team Redline. Let's go. Racebot TV. Fan immersion.
oh,
Well, yeah, incident there. We're just on board there with Gregor Hutu, the curb surface car. Big mistake there. Spins coming out of Macro Minerale, and that is a big blow for their race effort. Just the tyres, obviously a bit warm on the back there. Big issue. That came as a bit of a surprise to us there. We're also having a little break, but Nikita Gorgolov, I'm sure, kicking himself in that cockpit. But that means the Team Redline Black car of Gregor Hutu inherits the lead. But where is the Coanda car? Coanda car not too far back now either, just about 7 seconds behind. And Randy,
no, they're already through. They're already through. Coanda's already through. Yeah, so 2 positions lost there for curb surfers, and this might actually be a huge aid for Redline Black, because I think what Redline Black wanted was clean air, and curb surfers, by skipping tires as well, denied it. It's going to be interesting to see what can Gregor do for pace now that he has clean air. That's going to give the car a bit more downforce, likely going to make the car work a little bit easier. Will Gregor be able to match the pace anywhere close to what Jorn Jens is doing? But then again, last time out, Jorn Jens took 2 seconds out of Gregor Hutu.
And that's the second mistake we've seen from curb servers on those old tyres. So for them, the strategy call was incorrect. But we mentioned at the start that Coanda are usually the ones to make the interesting calls on strategy. Today, they've made the right call. You can see how much pace they have. I think we're going to see this. We're going to see Jorn Jens catch Hutu in the next couple of laps. So when he gets there, what happens then? Because that AMG is very fast on straight lines, as we mentioned before. It's going to have to be done in the corner somewhere, and we know that Gregor, with his experience and his skill, is one hell of a person to try and pass.
If you're Coanda, all you can do is cruise, because you are second place in points right now, and yes, you're catching Redline Black, yes, they're racing you for the championship, but don't force yourself into a mistake, because I think right now Coanda Simsport has a huge opportunity to take the points lead, because here's the situation. NX Racing Red is 30 seconds back. So even if NX Racing Red were to skip tires and Coanda took tires, they would come out together and Coanda would be quicker. The only in terms of points, the only person who's only team who's anywhere near them is Redline Black, and they almost certainly have to take tires this next stop. And with the amount of time they're losing in this stint, they'll likely fall into the clutches of the likes of Core and Pure Racing Team and Thrustmaster Movano Red. Coanda Simsport, they're in a situation that as long as they keep that BMW facing the right way, they have a huge opportunity to skip away with a points lead going into the Nürburgring.
Go, Jack.
Oh, well, yeah, they certainly will. Well, Johan Jens at the moment, gap to leader down now to just 4.1 seconds. Hutu's lap times now struggling significantly. 1:42.3 the last time by. Look at this one from Johan Jens. 1:41 flat. That's another 1.3 seconds. We did just see the curb surfers spin that car as well. They're now losing time with a 1:41.6 their last lap. This is a big mistake from Redline, and you have to feel here, Jimmy, that they were trying to force the issue here with a team like Coanda. And when you're at the front, you don't need to go and react to someone not taking tyres. You can go and you can push and you can make it work on your own strategy.
I almost feel that they were trying to force a hand maybe with Coanda, sort of say, look, we're going to do this, you should do this as well, but Coanda unfazed, stuck to that strategy. I want to make special mention, though, very quickly of the number 33 car, the Huskenveld course car, currently piloted by Alexander Voss, a 1:40.4 on his last lap. I think it's the fastest lap we've seen this race, and he's really on a charge at the moment. He's the quickest car on track down in 12th place, and as Randy mentioned earlier, I think we might see Core come back into this as we get into the later stages of the race. I mean, he's 44 seconds off the leader at the moment. We've got one pit stop to go, I think, and with this sort of pace, Alexander Voss is going to be putting that Core right up into the top order.
Yeah, certainly will be right now, and actually trying to chase down Evolution Racing Australia, the Blancpain World Championship team, the number 70, only 3 seconds down the road, so that one could close down in the next few laps. The time difference 6/10 that last time by, but look at the train of cars that we'll have to deal with next, the likes of both Inexes and the Orion team. So already you can see almost a pit stop on the championship leaders here, Randy. This is stunning work from Heusinkveld. It's what we expect from them now, because they're just so good from what they've done all season long.
Yeah, they are really, really good. And I mean, Heisfeld Core Motorsports, they are one of the strongest teams in endurance racing right now. We've seen them be dominant in the VLN series. We've seen them be dominant and always be there in the various endurance championships. And they, of course, won the first round of this championship, and that was a great way to get their championship started. And the thing that's a saving grace for Core is, yeah, you have a 42-second gap to the lead, but look at the gaps to the other cars ahead. It's only a 5 to 6 second gap to NX Racing Red. They are within 6 seconds of the championship leader. That has to be their target. Heisfeld Core Motorsports isn't necessarily racing for the lead. They just have to get anywhere near NX Racing Red and really Coanda and Redline Black. They definitely have the pace to do it. Because look at the pace of Jack Segwick right now. He just ran a 41.3, and if you look at the rest of his laps, all of his laps have been 41-something. 49.3s, 49.4s, a couple 49.1s, and a 49.2 in there. Compare that to Alexander Voss. I don't think he's had he's had 2 41s, likely due to the traffic. Everything else has been on the lower scale of the 40s. He's going to get to NX Racing Red here, I think, over the course of this stint. Heisfeld Core Motorsports are absolutely masterfully right now. Compare that to NX Racing Yellow, basically the exact same situation. They were actually tied in points coming into this, qualified relatively close to one another, had to do a drive-through. NX Racing Yellow, they're still doing a good job, but there's just so much further down the order that they're just going to have to get there, I think, through attrition.
Yeah, they certainly will. They're 8 seconds off of Heusinkveld right now, and you have to say 2 140.4s in a row. That is something special then into the second part of the Ravazza, and we're going to see what sort of time we're going to get right now. And it's certainly going to be something where Alexander Voss is wringing the neck out of that Heusinkveld Core Motorsports car. What's the time? 140.3! Fastest lap of the day, and he is really finding something within a second of ERA. This is sensational, but we also need to look at the front of the field, ladies and gentlemen. Jimmy, it's under 2 seconds, if not under a second now.
It is one car separating. You can see him in the same screen now, just a lap car. I think that's one of the Iberica cars there. just between the two cars. And the VRS Commander Sinsport being consistently faster than that Team Redline car, sort of lapping the low 41s, but not as fast as Voss, but at the moment that doesn't matter. He's faster than Gregor Hutu, who's lapping at the top end of the 141s, dipping into the 142s, and as soon as they pass this lap car, it will be those cars head to tail on track and for position. But at the moment this is going to really benefit Jorn Jens's Iberica car, gets a nice run. He's going to get the slipstream, which is going to help him get right onto the back of that Mercedes. Yes it is, right now just dipping into the slipstream. No he's not, he's going to pull out. Not quite sure why I would do that at the end of the straight. I'm not going to help him there, but again that's the lap car out of the way, and now it's just Hutu versus Jens, first and second place, Redline versus Coanda for the lead of this race.
How often do you get to hear this? Redline versus Coanda, not inside a McLaren MP430 or a Williams FW, whatever it was, 31 I believe it is, right now, gap underneath a second right now, as this one is looking to close and close and close here as they head themselves into Villeneuve, this left, then the right. Jens, just so much easier to get the power on, and finding himself a fantastic amount of time right now, and literally all over the back of the nose, Randy, here as they head themselves up towards Piratella.
Yeah, and the thing is right now is Jorn doesn't have to push because he just has better tires. I mean, you're talking about a 1.5 seconds advantage. You don't have to force anything. It's just going to come naturally here. You don't have to drive over your head, and I bet you anything that Gregor Hutu knows that he's beat here, and he won't fight Coanda tooth and nail. He knows that he can drop down in a second place and still be in a brilliant position for the final round of the championship to have a chance at getting the win. And he knows that it's this stage of the race, even if he lets Coanda past, it's not necessarily the race done yet. I think once Jorn shows the nose, Gregor's essentially going to jump out of the way.
Yeah, that could be the way that we're seeing things right now. Jens incredibly close then as they head small kink right onto the brakes. Very difficult braking zone down the hill into Ravat, so it really does test yourself on those brake pads into the final left. And now you can see right now that gap, literally 0.2 of a second, if not less. You can see closing. Doesn't matter if you're a BMW or not, that gap's going to come down. You're going to see nose to tail over the start finish line, and you're going to see pulls out outside line. Hutu is defending things at the moment, but you see still side by side, moves out of the way. New race leader, ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy, Jorn Jens is leading.
Nothing really Hutu could have done about that, even if he defended it. That car on the new tyres, Commander car, just so much quicker at this point. Did the clever thing as Franz to sort of get out of the way, concentrating on just getting the car round, getting to the finish at this point. And it may be towards the end of the race that strategies differ and the red line car comes back, but for now that VRS Commander car has to focus on getting this lead as big a gap as possible. He's now fighting cars a bit further down the field, has to look back at the likes of the Pure Racing cars, the Core Racing car, sorry, and just make sure that he's covering them for future pit stops. So Jorn Jens now clear track, and off he goes at the front.
Racing Velcor Motorsports then, we're going to follow the developments of them. They're up into 11th position after a drive-through penalty at the start of this race. Past Riley Preston without too many worries, and now just a 2.7 second gap then to chase down to Orion right now. Their last lap time was a 1:21.5 spinner, and that's Jack Sedgwick. That's Inex Racing Red. Pressure tells, Randy, and that's a huge mistake for the championship leaders.
Pressure tells and pressure kills, and just a slight mistake here is not in terms of how big of a mistake this was, it was about 6 inches. He took too much of the curb and the car just bounced, and because of that it went around. He loses a handful of spots, and I think most notably Core picked up a position because of that, and that moved them into the top 10. Inex Racing Red have been flawless all championship. They've had impeccable luck all championship. A worst finish position of 5th place, which tends to be pretty nice for the drop weeks. If they drop a race here, that could be huge as they go into the Nürburgring.
It certainly can, and Alexander Voss now needs to capitalise, needs to chase down Orion and Inex Blue. Dave Geelick now will have to play that defensive role, that gunner for what is Inex Racing Red. Won't be able to catch back up, I wouldn't think. Potentially with Tamala back behind the wheel for the final stint, maybe we could see some fireworks towards the end, but already we are starting to see here a lot of things happening. The gap at the front already opens up then to 1.2 seconds, but heavy traffic to deal with for Coanda and for Redline here already, and you can see here, battle for third as well here, Jimmy. Curb surfers are being caught hand over fist a second a lap by the Core Sim Racing team.
Again, the difference in taking tyres and not taking tyres. That Curb Surfers car Lots of struggles whilst on his second stint, just not quite making the Warden tyres work with our setup. You see, second guessing himself through some of these faster corners now. And that core car currently still piloted by Frederick Rasmussen, he started the race, is catching very quickly. It'll be a matter of laps before these two battle. I want to just very quickly take our attention back to that 33 car of Alexander Voss. When he got in the car, he was 46 seconds off the lead. He is now 38 seconds off the lead. So he's gained 8 seconds over his course of time in the car. And if he keeps doing that, he'll be out of the leaders by the end of the race.
Yeah, and you can see right now, though, in the scrap for 4th, 5th, 6th, you can see right now, well, 5th, 6th, 7th even, Pure Racing teams and also that Thrustmaster Movano red car having to get past Joni Hagner in the Glacier Racing BES1, of course, involved in that lap 1 incident towards the back of the field. That's why he is a lap down, 2 laps down, plus at the moment currently. But you can see here, everyone's just getting a little bit twitchy right now, and Beneke closer than he's been before right now, and you're going to see this power effect start to happen. Maybe Beneke's going to say, you know what, my turn to go to the front here, Randy.
Yeah, he might want to go out there to the front, but the thing is he's picked up a lot of positions just following Patrick, and he's, I think, benefiting a lot from this. He can just sit there and cruise, he can save gas, and I honestly think if he tries to make a move on Patrick, what's Patrick supposed to do once they get to the straight? Is he supposed to just slow down and stay behind Max and let that Audi and that Thrustmaster Audi behind attack him going into corner number 1? I think that would hurt them more than it would help, because Max would not have the top end on those cars behind. I think running line astern right now, I don't think they have the pace. You know, even if Max out in front, I don't think he has the pace to run from Thrustmaster behind. I think being just like this is really smart. I have a question to pose to you guys, though. Curb surfers and Redline Black, that decision on tires, was that a decision for the race win, or was that a decision just to gap everyone else and essentially give the win to Coanda?
Jimmy, I'll hand that one to you first, as we're seeing right now in X Blue versus Hoyksveld Core Motorsports.
We'll keep an eye on that while we answer that question, but I think that may be the reason here. I mean, it may be enough to say, okay, maybe we haven't got enough pace to actually win this race. They're saying that curb surface obviously very quick in qualifying, but having that clear air, it keeps you out of trouble, one, because you aren't dealing with traffic, and two, because you're free to run your own way. So you're not affected by slipstream, you're not affected by the air, or not being there in fact. And what we have to do really now is compare the time between Redline Black and the curb surface and see who, because they're running effectively their own little race now with the different strategies. And at the moment, Redline Black is winning that battle by lapping about 2-3 tenths of that faster consistently. But they're still on their own at the moment, although the RS Coanda is pulling away from the Redline Black car. They've got an 8-second gap behind them, and that gap in front of them. So Hutu is just free to run his line and just do what he wants effectively. Same for the curb surface. So that's an interesting point. Although now, just very quickly, just seeing the gap has come right down now for that 24 car, of course, sim racing and the curb surface car. So this might be another
and
position
Voss side
lost.
by side. And here comes Alexander Voss as well. We're going to see straight through then on Dave Geelings in X Racing Blue. Comfortable decision then for Hoyksingveld. Moves himself up into 9th. Got to chase down Orion next. That's the big one we're seeing. We are also seeing that battle going on for 3rd position. Frederick Rasmussen all over the back of Nikita Gorloff there of the curb surfers. And in my opinion, you can see another big wiggle though from Nikita Gorloff. You have to say, curb surfers, they're not fighting for the championship. They had nothing to lose by this decision. They could have made that move, and potentially it could have worked, and it could have been one of the great things. You look at, say, Redline Black, though, they've got to fight for a championship. They thought maybe something outside the box. That was going to be their way forward. But in the end, no, it's not going to work out, and that might be the decision that they have to look back on this season, which thought we could have been champions, but if we'd done the strategy right, we would have never known if we'd done it this way. Gorloff then, with Rasmussen behind, and just ahead of them, though, as a bit of slipstream help, David Alexi Jordan there of the Dark Contigo team, Randy. You can see here, this could be as easy as ABC.
Yeah, it really could, and Frederick Rasmussen starting to get the draft as they come down this long front straightaway. What's going to make it hard, we talk about it so much in this series, is the top end of the McLaren, because the old tires don't affect how quickly you go in a straight line. So how will Fred be able to get himself in a position to get a pass? I don't think Fred's going to have to be able to make this move into turn 1. It's going to take a huge, I think, mistake from Nikita to be able to enable that, a huge wiggle as they come off that final corner. I think Fred's going to have to do this in a different part of the racetrack, maybe breaking into one of the chicanes, your uphill left-hander, maybe down to the very end of the Alta, maybe an aggressive move Fred has the pace to get the job done. He has to do it somewhat uniquely, I'll say here. And look at the run he gets here as they go up the hill.
Yeah, you can see here really trying to tap into getting that advantage off of the exit, but again, you can see certainly not going to happen. Now, this poses a massive question. Maybe if you look at BRS Coanda, and if they couldn't find the way through, if maybe that the curb surface car didn't spin it down at the Variante Alta, we could have seen maybe a hold-up on the field, and maybe we could have seen the likes of Core coming back into this one. Lap traffic to deal with ahead, though. That is the car of the Radicals Online GT team. There, that's Miguel Martin there behind the wheel, into the right-hander, then the left here of the Variante Alta. You can see clipping those curbs a lot heavier then is the car of the curb surface, and again, Rasmussen struggling a little bit here, you could say, right now, Jimmy. Really can't find that way through.
Effectively nothing he can do on these straight sections. As Randy said, that top speed in McLaren is going to be there regardless of tyres. Let's see how the exit is for the curb surface car. That's fine. He's going to be ahead now coming into the T1 regardless of the slipstream. It seems that Rasmussen is his best bet for an overtake is coming down either into the hairpin in the first section of the course, or maybe into the Variante Alta at the last part of the course. That is where the cars are most different on pace. But Rasmussen needs to make a big move somewhere, otherwise he's going to be stuck behind his McLaren for quite a while.
Yeah, certainly is. Struggling right now is Frederick Rasmussen. Again, looking for an opportunity through the third part of Tamburello. Takes a little bit more curve, moves to the left-hand side. Still doesn't have that overspeed there. Was a tenth behind, but still couldn't put that nose side by side. And you know just how close he's trying to be. A little bit more dust. Trying to go up. Might send it down the inside at Toza. Will send it down the inside at Toza. Side by side. And they come out the exit. And that one is Rasmussen. But it's not over and done with yet. You can see the overspeed of Gorloff then. Going to come straight back at Piratella. And going to try and do it the long way around. Defensive line taken. No, he's going to give that one up. That one is pretty much game and set. There, Randy. Through goes Frederick Rasmussen.
That was a flawless out-braking maneuver there by Frederick going up into Tosa. He just broke just a little bit, just late enough that he'd get side by side. And coming off the exit, he knew that he'd had the grip on the inside on the new tires, and he essentially knew that he'd be able to get to that outside perfectly. Job well done by Frederick Rasmussen to move himself up into a podium position. They're looking great this time out.
I think though, Randy, it's going to swap around now because Rasmussen had a bad exit there coming out of the Variante Alta, and now these last two corners are quite similar. Unless Rasmussen is very quick coming out of this last left, he will be under attack from that McLaren again.
Well, you can see there, a massive wiggle from Gorloff. And they're taking their chances, curb surfing by nature. And well, you have to say, Gorloff, a chance that certainly hasn't happened. We've just seen Hoytsenveld as well getting themselves through on the Orion race team that last lap by. But what we do need to do, though, is take a very quick commercial break. When we come back, we are going to be in a fantastic position. The second half of your race here at Imola. This is your Blancpain GT Series. Don't go away.
So I'm Dan Garrison, engineer at iRacing. I've been working on dynamic track and wanted to take the lab coat off to kind of give an update on what I've been doing to enhance things on the asphalt side, what we're kind of calling the dynamic track version 2. When we started looking at dirt and the interaction between the tire and the track, kind of pointed us to some things we could improve on the asphalt side as well. We were able to kind of rework the calculations that account for heat transferring generally in the direction from the tire to the track. The track will cool a little bit faster when cars are not on it, but more significantly, cars running on the track are going to impart more energy into it, bringing the temperature up and changing the racing experience so that you do have to be wary of the track getting hot and reducing your grip. I've been rethinking some of the calculations that determine kind of how the rubber is torn, whether it's how much is torn from the tire, how much is torn from a rubbered-in track. I've made some changes so that rolling tire will pick up more rubber. We also looked at the thickness of the rubber under the contact patch and realized we can make improvements to the model there. As a result, we're able to make the tire respond a little bit more to how much rubber is there. We're able to influence how fast the track rubbers in areas where the tires are working hard. So I'm excited about these changes that we're making. The temperature in the track is going to be a lot more dynamic. It's going to mean you're going to have to dive around looking for the cool parts of the track. I think it's going to make the different lines come in and change the racing experience, and I'm really kind of excited to see how this is going to change things following the September build when it comes out.
Well, while you were away, we almost saw a very scary instant for the number 21 machine. That's Russ Master Movano Red. That's Mario Bertolotti behind the wheel of that one. Straight on at Ravazza, almost taking the rear out of the driver of Maximilian Benecke. And well, Randy, we know all about Benecke. He gets into so many of these incidents, never really his fault, and he's just been the unluckiest man of 2016. Someone really does have a curse with him.
Well, I wouldn't say they're all not his fault, but I'm not going to get too political. But that I don't think was his fault at all. I think that was just Thrustmaster Movano. Seemingly, I mean, that was just a mistake all in their own. So, yeah, Max was there, but I don't think he really had anything to do with that one.
No, he certainly doesn't, but you do have to look at this gap, which might open up a little bit more come the end of the race. Alexander Voss we need to look at for the Huitzingvelcourt Motorsports team. Started fourth on the grid, had to serve that penalty, that drive-through penalty after incident at Brands Hatch, but now running that pace around that 140.8 mark. You've got to look at what Bellotti can do and what Bellotti is doing right now. You look at his lap times, 141.4 that last time by, 0.6 of a second a lap can go away pretty quickly. I think 16 seconds here, Jimmy, can be caught up by the end of the race.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, that was a 40.8 there for Voss. So again, just sort of flexing the muscle of that Audi. And as I said, 35 seconds now, just under 36 seconds to the leader. He's still closing in. He's still getting, going quicker and quicker. And it just at the front kind of can't match that pace. It may be a case of not matching Heskenveld, but sort of hoping the people in between them get in the way, because he is still down in 8th position. There are still 7 places between him and the leader at this point, so I think it's just a matter of doing the best you can from the cards you were dealt.
Yeah, it certainly is, and well, we've seen them work together all race long here. Pure Racing Team 71 and 73 getting themselves together, the team of a McLaren and a BMW here as they get past the driver of Miguel Martin here in the Radicals Online GT team into the chicane. They come along the Barry anti-house. You can see just how much more speed Maximilian Benecke can just chuck into it right now. If you want to look at the gap at the front of your field, VRS Coanda Simsport, Veranda Simsport, good lord, he is 6 seconds ahead and counting over Team Redline Black, and that one is going to just go up even further because that gap now is here, Randy, 7.4.
Yeah, that gap is huge, and you know, Jorn is doing a masterful job. Jorn, yeah, he's stretching out this second or so per lap every single lap, but Jorn really isn't pushing. He's not the fastest car out on the racetrack. He's not even the fastest BMW out on the racetrack. He's really matching the pace of Max Benecke, and Fred Rasmussen has actually been quicker, but the problem is it's only been to about a couple tenths per lap, and he's 12 seconds back. There's really no way to get there. I think the main car to watch right now is Blancpain Motorsports. I don't think they're in it for a win, but they're in a position with the championship that I think they're going to take a risk due to the fact that they had this drive-through penalty. Looking at the times that they have and the gaps to the cars in front, 15 seconds to Movano, and then about 16 to the Pure Racing teams, and then Curb Surfers. We saw them do it at Spa, which is a track that we didn't really think it might come in and play out. I think there's an outside chance that if you're Huitzingvelcourt Motorsports, you skip tires, and in doing so, you potentially pick yourself up 3, 4, 5 spots in your final hour of the race and try to hold those guys off. I think Alexander's quick enough that even on old tires, he'll be able to defend all the way to the checkered.
Yeah, that could be the big move that we could see inside the final hour right now. We can certainly see some battles going on. Hutu being caught right now at a rate of about a second a lap plus here by Frederick Rasmussen. That gap down under 4 seconds right now as he heads through the final Ravazza here. Does the car of Rasmussen. Scott Gray there in the Mad Cow Racing Bessie machine. Bessie is back and better than ever. You can see we'll have to move across at some stage. That gap then across the line, a 142.1 that time then from Mad Cow Racing Bessie. You look at Frederick Rasmussen, another one falls flat, that gap down to 3.9. Jimmy, this one's coming down in the next 3 laps.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very soon that we see these guys back together on track. Of course, that core sim racing car driven by Rasmussen used to look at the back of that red, white, black car. They were behind them for pretty much the entirety of the first stint of the race until Gregor chose not to take tyres and Core did. So now you're seeing that difference. This is the difference between those two strategies, and the time is now coming down whilst you get the initial gap from not taking tyres. After a while, it starts to come back to haunt you, so to speak. And last lap from Gregor Hooter, 42.0. So again, you can see the pace just slowing down now on that red line car.
And Randy, also we need to talk about the curb surface. They're now within 2 seconds of Pure Racing teams, both of them right now. And this is going to be really interesting looking at Beneke, not Pichler. Pichler also in the McLaren, can very easily get past McLaren versus McLaren. We've seen that so much. We've already seen one overtake from the BMW. We saw that done at Tosa. I don't think that Maximilian Beneke can go through on the slipstream alone here against a driver like, say, Nikita Gorloff right now. I think he needs to be a bit more shrewd, just like we saw from the core sim racing team.
Oh, we got something bigger to talk about. NX Racing Red hit the ink limit. They're out of the race.
Ah, you've got to be joking. And that changes the game entirely. Out go NX Racing Red, and out goes the lead. Out goes the possibility now, potentially, of holding on through. No points will be scored by NX Red. This is disaster. And Jimmy, this one has ended in tears.
It's just a matter of the racing that's been involved so far. You saw a couple of taps from Yoni earlier when he was driving the cars in front, and it's just caught up with them. I've not seen the incident that's put him out, but I think it may have been a spin of some sort somewhere.
Lap 59 into the second chicane, and it was an incident with Gecko Vortex Red.
Oh, what a shame that is. NX Racing Red have been the most consistent team. Top 5s in every single race they've entered in, and it's been shown up on screen. We saw that incident happen. This one has changed the game, and it all bends into Coanda's favour right now as we look, though, at your curved surface machine being caught. The 14 and the 4, though, having a great scap. The 04, that's Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red, Gianluca Bernardinelli and Antoine Higeland into Tamburello, and these two fighting it out for the top 15 right now, and points certainly there to be trying to be won right now here, Jimmy.
Right in the back now is that Apex team. We mentioned them earlier, an up-and-coming team. They're looking pretty damn fighty out there, of course. Up behind that Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red car, coming up down to the hairpin. Look how much better than that Mercedes and Brayton McLaren. McLaren obviously struggling on tyres at this point. I wonder if Red took tyres or not.
That could be a big question here. You look at Bernardinelli's last lap of 42.1, compare that to Higeland of 41.9. So, by my recollection, I'd say no. I think it's just a pace thing going on here at the moment, Jimmy. But, Randy, we're looking at this one right now. It's certainly closing up, but we have to look up further through the field because we do need to look at that curb surface machine. They are under threat. Here comes Pichler, and here goes the move. And actually something interesting right now, Beneke's just let through Bertolotti right now, saying, you know what, you make the move. I can't make it in the toe. I've got to try and make the move on my own terms right now. So at the moment, Beneke, is that conceding defeat? That's a very weird thing to see.
It could be a couple different strategies playing out. Max might see himself in a position where he can't really pass these. Disadvantage is huge for that McLaren. It's also possible that Max is trying to save gas and trying to make that last stop as short as he can, because at this stage in the race, and that Thrustmaster car very slow through that second chicane, and going up into the uphill left-hander. Max on the outside, not quite able to get the pass done though, and the number 21 and Mario Bertoli is going to be able to hold on. Max might be trying to save fuel here and just trying to make his last stop as short as he can. Maybe not trying to make the pass on the racetrack, maybe trying to make the pass on pit road, which I think in that BMW is all he can really do considering the top end disadvantage. He might be able to get around curb surfers at some point like we saw Fred do, but it's going to be, I think, a big move that'll be necessary to get around Thrustmaster Red if it's not a mistake.
Yeah, everything moved then for Maximilian Beneke except his bowels there as he moved into that corner of Villeneuve there. You just had to see there, Bertolotti was very close onto the back of Nikita Gorloff, and he was very close enough that he had to get himself to the outside of it. You know, he just ran out of road, had to take that tighter line through that second apex of Villeneuve. That's what cost him. That's what almost caused the incident right now. And you have to say, Nikita Gorloff, a very lucky driver right now, down this front straightaway. They go once again. Are we going to see a move here? Gorloff being closed more and more and more. You can see there is a slipstream effect coming into play. You can see the toe right now from Bertolotti. Looking at that opportunity. We also need to look at Redline Black at the moment, Jimmy, because that gap, 1.2 seconds.
Just about to see him now on the same piece of circuit. Rasmussen closing up back to the back of that red line car. I'm sure he's sick of seeing the back of that and very eager to get past it as soon as possible. And this is where you're seeing the two BMWs running the superior strategy here of taking tyre. So it'll be Coanda, and if Core gets past the Team Redline Black car, it will be a BMW 1-2 at this point. So looking very good for the BMWs out there today, despite the fact we thought they would be struggling in the race. They've proved us wrong as always. Coming now down to Ackerman around. Let's see the braking distance now, the braking difference between these cars. Well, I'm being told there's a battle a bit further back between the 21 car and the curb service car. That's right, yes. And the Mario Bertolotti has got past the curb service car. We missed that.
Yeah, we did, but there you can see that was the move into Piratella. Now you can see just how close Maximilian Benecke needs to find that move, but up the hill, that advantage just goes away from that BMW compared to the McLaren. So through goes Mario Bertolotti, and now it's a case of do it on your own. You can see it was Florian Voigt at the back of the field, but it's Patrick Pichler who now has that gap about a second and a half to get away, and that's just the emphasis to say, go on, you can take fourth position right now. A fantastic opportunity to move forward, and you look at Benecke here, just looking for that opportunity. I don't think he'll get the move done here, Randy.
No, I don't think so. It's going to take a mistake from Nikita to get the job done, and Nikita doesn't make a mistake this time like he did when he let Frederick Rasmussen of the Core Sim Racing machine through. And look, Max in the draft, he can just sit there. And even with the draft, look at the way that McLaren stretches the gap. That's what the speed difference is. Second place starting to heat up. Redline Black under attack from Core Sim Racing.
Inside. Oh my word, almost happened for Benecke, didn't quite, but still there, still close. Still need to look though at the battle for second place that goes on as well. That one to be done with Hutu and Rasmussen. Rasmussen looking there, car stopped in the middle of the track there. That's lap traffic, that's John O'Cala of the Iberica Racing Custom Cockpit. And that one ending up almost in tears, but looking back side by side, they're going to go round the outside drives Benecke. And you know what? Benecke's got the move. Brilliant stuff, but it's not over yet for Nikita Gorloff. Could have a look down the inside back once again. Nothing to lose, doesn't have the move. Benecke through, and almost the heart in mouth moment, Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, going through the hairpin, I think that Frederick pulled out to overtake Hutu. Okay, right, it's got to be inside. Then just saw a car just strewn across the track and luckily managed to avoid it. But both cars still nose to tail. The Merc in front doesn't seem to have as big of speed advantage over the BMWs you've seen before. Seems like that BMW has a fairly low downforce setup compared to the rest of the track. And again, going downhill now in the slipstream, closing right up to the back. I think we're going to see a move down to T1 if Frederick can get right onto the back of that red line car coming out of the last left. Does he? Yes, look how much more grip he has out of the corner. A better exit there. Initially the Mercedes will get away, but now the BMW picks up the slipstream and starts to reel in Hutu. 5-time world champion here, defending from the Core Sim Racing car, goes to the outside, doesn't make too big a deal of defending, it seems like. Core going to go up the inside. I think this is done and dealt now. Here we are, braking zone, there you go, Core straight through. Hutu getting on the brakes a bit earlier than usual, and that is second place to Core Sim Racing.
Fantastic work by them, and I think all of this has just helped out the team of Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports. They will close in that gap more and more. You can see the lap time. A 1:44.1 that last time from Gregor Hutu, just because of the traffic they've had to deal with. That brings in Patrick Pichler to effect. 1:41.5 that last time, so Hutu now starting to tumble through the field. 6 seconds that gap, but also you need to look out though for the driver of Alexander Voss in the Hoiksingveld Core Sim Racing right now. That gap down to 33 seconds to the leader. They are putting in a stint right now, Randy.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and we're talking about Core Sim Racing and Redline Black so much, we're getting mixed up with our cores. Look at the lap times from Hinesville Core Motorsports compared to everyone else due to the traffic. That last time by, Hinesville Core Motorsports made up 3 to 4 seconds on everyone in front of them except Coanda.
Yeah, that is the big benefactor, but you have to remember here, Jimmy, they were having to take that drive-through penalty. They were at one stage 50 seconds back on the leaders. That really does show you how they've pulled themselves back in. 33 seconds. They were at the front of the field with Alexander Voss in the car, they'd be leading this race, and they would be in a prime position to take the title to the Nürburgring and say, you know what, come beat us on our home turf.
Yeah, without the penalty, they wouldn't just be leading, they'd be pulling away as well. They'd be far in front at this point. With 33 seconds, with just over an hour to go, sort of left wondering what they can do in this position. I think realistically their best bet may be scraping onto the podium, but we'll see here when they come across the line what sort of gap they have to leaders with Alexander Voss at the wheel. He's put in an excellent stint so far, definitely my driver of the day up to this point. Let's see what sort of time he does across the line now. The 140.9 again takes the gap down to just under 33 seconds, still gaining on our leaders, and importantly still gaining on that curb surface car in front, which last lap to the 142.3, so 1.4 seconds quicker that lap was the Hülkenberg car.
Well, don't forget, maybe in pace they may be looking maybe at just the top 5, but don't forget this second stint, how much this field has been shaken up due to strategy calls. The same thing could definitely happen here towards the tail end of the race. See someone go on the wrong strategy and they could fall like a stone.
Yeah, we certainly could. We could see, though, the tyres, well, we didn't see it work in that first stint, but maybe for a team like Core right now, Core Motorsports, Hülkenberg Core Motorsports, they could find themselves in a position here, Randy, where they could skip tyres here on this final stint, try and run it as long as they can. They were one of the last teams to come in on that opening stint. They save it a little bit more, and if they can continue to run these times, if not mid-141s, they can gain at least 15 seconds from this one. They can be right there with the likes of Redline Black. They could be right there with the likes of Thrustmaster Movano. They could be right there with Pure Racing Team. And you know what? They could still be competitive.
Yeah, they very well could. It's about a 30-second difference on a full fuel stop between tires and taking tires. We saw Redline Black and we saw Curb Surfers, 42.4 and a 42.3 in the pit lane. They're the guys that didn't take tires. Everyone else, 1 minute 10, 1 minute 12, 1 minute 11. So basically, right on 30 seconds for the, just to make it easy. They're 32 seconds off your leaders. If they skip tires, no, they won't be in front of Coanda, but they would be about 10 to 15 seconds in front of Core. It might be a situation for Core Motorsports that they could take tires and then lose 2 to 3 spots, and they'd still finish further ahead than if they took tires and picked those spots up on the racetrack.
Yeah, that could be the big thing, but you can see the gap coming down for the Curb Surfers compared to Hülkenberg Core right now. 26.3 to the leader. That gap now down is 6 seconds between themselves and Core are catching at a rate of 1.5 seconds a lap, and Gorloff with another little wiggle right now. We are coming towards the second round of stops. It is pit stop window. You could say it's open in about 5 minutes, but we could see some cars come in, try and run that hour 5 stint. It's certainly possible, but around a high fuel consumption track like this, Jimmy, it's very difficult to master.
It is, and I do have a thought coming back to Maximilian Beneke in that number 73 car. For the most part of this race, he's been in the toe and slipstream of his teammate, the 71 car. How much fuel has he saved in this stint? How long can he go? Let's say he goes as far as he can. He does a 105 stint, maybe even longer. Doesn't take tyres. Where does that put him? He'll be catapulted up the field. It almost forces the hand of the team in front. Everyone has to not take tyres at this sort of thing. If someone doesn't take tyres, they froze him up at the top of the field, then it's a matter of getting them past him on track. And like we mentioned with Voss earlier, he is fast enough that if he doesn't take tyres to sort of defend that position. So I think this is going to be really interesting in terms of strategy for this last pit stop window.
I tell you what, the two teams that will struggle though is the Curb Surfers and Redline Black. They have to take tyres in this situation. They've tried to double stint early on and tried to force the hand. I think they have to come in here, Randy. They have to take tyres because those tyres are going to drop away even more. Even we could see the potential of them being literally ice as they move on forward, and that could be the way forward. That could be the thing we see right now. They could lose out massively in these last lot of stops.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think if you're for Curb Surfers and Redline Black, you have to take tires here, not only because of the fact that you single stinted or double stinted this first 2 runs, but you also, both of those teams are teams that have to make their driver swap, and because of that, there's no penalty for taking tires if you do the driver swap. Because if you do the driver swap and don't take tires, you might get tagged with a 25-second time delay. If you take tires though, that time delay is gone by the time the pit stop's done anyway, so you might as well take them. You know who I think's in a really awkward position right now is Coanda, because right now they're 13 seconds ahead of a team like Core, and we've seen these BMWs steal positions and steal wins away over the course of this championship. Coanda did it at Silverstone, and Coanda did it again at Brands. They didn't get away with a win, but they managed to snag a second place after a race full of issues. They're in a situation right now where the safe call is definitely to take tires, because they will have a dominating performance over the rest of their championship contenders anyways. If they take tires, they get out in front of Redline Black, they stay out in front of NX Racing Yellow, they probably even stay out in front of Core, even if Core doesn't take tires. They might lose a couple other spots, but they wouldn't lose spots to teams they're contending with. But it might be in a situation where if you're Coanda, you want to maximize points. If you're Coanda, what do? Do you go the safe gamble to try to get there safely without having to struggle on old tires? Or do you try to maximize your gap and skip them for the last stint?
Yeah, that could be the big thing. Dom Dewan then, the boss of Redline here in the Redline green car, comes in. I believe he has to stint his car right now and change his driver. That one is one to look out for here. A lap down though, so not the best of days for what is that green team at the moment. But
Bono Huis in that car now, just to let you know.
yeah, Bono Huis, a very, very talented driver. Normally doing those first two stints, not this time though, but he's, again, look at the gap coming down for Huizen Velcor Motorsports. That gap now 32 seconds. A couple more seconds here and there. If they continue to push on these tyres more and more, they could bring that under 30 seconds here, Jimmy. They could get the jump in the stops on Coanda. It's going to be incredibly tight, and you have to look from all directions here to work out who's going to win this one.
I mean, from a driver's point of view as well, you want to go as fast as you can all the time, but sometimes that isn't the way. Sometimes you have to just reel yourself back in a little bit, make sure you're shifting that a little bit earlier, maybe coasting into the braking zone, but at the same time you're doing that, you have to make sure you're going fast enough to be around the people around you, you know? Like, you have to make sure you're doing the right thing. I mean, I'm also hearing that Jorn faked a pit entry just now.
Yeah, he came off the final corner, and I think he thought he didn't, maybe he has an extra lap of fuel he can go, or maybe he's trying to get us to fool the other teams on the broadcast. I can tell you who is in the pit lane. That's Mr. Gregor Hutu in Redline Black. So pit stops are starting as we hit that hour mark. And I think the advantage here, Jake and Jimmy, is going to be the teams that go longest here and have the shortest final stint possible. Because by doing that, you're going to see what everyone else does, and then you can respond accordingly. I think if you're Coanda, you've already run a relatively conservative stint here. You might as well go long, and I think that's what Jorn's doing. You do that, you can see who chooses the double stint, and then who doesn't, and then you can make your decision based on that information, rather than essentially coming in early and choosing blind.
Yeah, Tommy Hacker then will go behind the wheel of Team Redline Black, as is traditional with the Redline Black lineup right now. Into pits then. They are the first of the leaders to come in. We're expecting them to take tyres. I think that's going to be the big way forward. We'll see exactly where they pan out in the shuffle right now. But, you know, it is one of these things here you look at, Jimmy, when you get VRS Coanda trying to fake an entry. Maybe they're trying to put someone in. Maybe the call was a little bit late for Jorn Jens. Oh, come in. No. Stay out. Just had enough time to do it so that he didn't drive himself down into pit road.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's coming down to this now, getting these laps and getting these calculations all done perfectly and correctly. Otherwise you could end up, let's see what he does now. He comes into pit lane, he's pitting this time, no fake entry. Jorn Jens, our leader in the pits, just smashing the brakes for hitting that pit entry line. Will he take tyres or not? That is the question. We're going to have to watch that and wait for him to come in. I'm going to say they're going to take tyres and be safe, but the thing is, if they do that, anyone behind them will be able to jump in coming into the pits. So Corin in as well, so that'll be two to watch.
Two to watch. Core Sim Racing will come in, so will Iberica
PRT,
Racing Bank.
They inherit the lead.
Yeah, PRT then will
Both
take
PRT stay out.
Yeah, they do, both of them going in. So, a lot of action here to keep yourself up in. Jorn Jens will stay behind the wheel just for the time being. They're down on pit road. This is going to be key to look out for later on. You can see these cars all filing themselves past. There is Velcor Motorsports that gets themselves down the pit start play right now. You can see everyone in. Inex Blue just coming out of pit road right now. You can see Alex Simpson then in the Apex Racing UK, the JCL Apex Racing UK car, coming out Team Boss for that one. So a lot happening. All eyes turn to the pit lane, Jimmy.
Just watching now to see if these cars do take tyres. That's the Coanda and the Core car. These are the ones. No tyres there, I think, for Coanda. I didn't see the car come up on the jacks at all. I'm not sure, Randy, if you can confirm that or not, because you said you were watching the times.
No tyres. No tyres for Core either.
So there you go. There. Go on.
This is a huge gamble, ladies and gentlemen. You look at these two. They've thought, you know what? These guys are going to try and take no tyres. I've got no choice. They have no choice. They're going to take no tyres to the end of this race, and that is a gamble. Will this gamble pay off, though? That's going to be the big question that everyone is going to be asking themselves right now. We've got to look at Core Sim Racing. Santeri Kalunki behind the wheel of that one. Jorn Jens stays behind the wheel of the VRS Commander SimSport 18. We've seen it before. Now it's become a mainstream thing. This has been the battle of tyres versus no tyres, and at the moment, this is one that all eyes need to see. Hacker back in for Redline Black, speeding on pit lane. That's a huge one. They're out of the fight and potentially out of the championship, Randy.
Mistakes dictate championships. We've seen NX Racing Red make a drastic mistake. They're going to come out of this with a DNF and essentially burn their drop week. Now, Redline Black come in, and Gregory, actually, no, it would have been Tommy who sped. And then Tommy misses his box in terms of getting in to serve the penalty. Huge mistakes for Redline Black. You're 5th place in points. He's now going to be a lap down, likely finishing out of your top 10. Yes, there's still people who have to come through, but he's essentially doing an extra pit stop, and he's sitting, I think it's going to be a 15-second stop and hold, maybe closer to 10. But that's a big mistake for Tommy Haka. But a big gamble for Coanda. And Jimmy, you talked about it at the end of the first stint, the likes of Curb Surfers and Redline Black trying to force the hands of everyone else. Coanda just forced the hands of everyone else, saying if you wanted any hope of winning this thing, you have to skip tires, and you have to be as good on those old tires as we have already been several times before.
I'm just thinking that whilst watching Alexander Voss, that maybe it depends how he wants to do his race. Does he want to be aggressive? Does he want to maybe come in, take tyres, but then again take the hit from the pit stop and then just be a rocket for the last stint? Because there is about over 50 minutes to go now, and a second lap will add up. Or do you want to come in, take the safe option, and copy the leaders, so to speak? Coanda have said, like you mentioned, this is what we're doing. If you want to be with us at this point, you have to do the same thing. And it's now all the strategy guys now, I imagine, huddled around there, trying to make an informed decision. But as of now, it's almost guesswork. So let's see how this pans out.
Panic then at the race circuit here. Imola, Bertolotti then, your race leader current, comes down onto pit road right now. Will Huizenveld Core go and join them? Alexander Voss, yes, he will come down. Leaders all now in. All comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen everything happen. We've seen the likes of Pure come in. We've seen the likes of Core Sim Racing, VRS Coanda. We've seen everyone decide, you know what, no tyres is the way forward. Ilya Molotovchikov, though, of the Curb Surface team, they've had to take tyres. They've fallen even behind the likes of, say, NX Racing Yellow, PJ Sturgis behind the wheel of that one. And they
cutting in, they skip tyres as well, because I was about to come in with that next.
Yeah, you can see tyres have to be skipped. There is no alternative. Everyone just relying on fuel, relying on opportunity, relying on this, that, and the other. And this one, Randy, is coming down to a thrilling classic.
Yeah, this is one of those things where if you're Core Motorsports, what do? Are you in a situation where you have to respond and do what everyone else did? Or do you take the risk and do what everyone, for the majority of the field, didn't do? Everyone else has skipped tires. There might be an outside shot here if you're Core. You've been so much faster than everyone else. You could take the rubbers and be quicker, but no. Core Motorsports decides no tires for them. Let's see how this pans out for them in this final stint. How masterclass can Alexander Voss be?
And Jorn Jens past the pit lane, flashes his lights to say, you know what? Good game. I'm taking this one. Voss out of pit lane right now. And in a world of clean air, look back, there is Jonas Wallmeyer there in the Pure Racing team, number 71. Ideally, they've taken tyres, but you can see that
Voss
gap.
in third.
Yeah, Voss has not lost much time there. I think he's gained time.
He's gained time. The only cars that are in front of him are Jens and Santeri Kalinke. Is everyone's pit? How did Core get into third?
Tyres. They must have taken tyres to that point. I've not been watching the entire lot. I've just been watching Voss. I noticed that Core Racing aren't that far up the road. They're just coming...
No. I'm talking about Voss. I'm saying Voss is in third.
Yeah. I'm agreeing with you. Don't worry. We're on the same page here.
Yeah, Alexander Voss then does the deal then in the pit stop window. They have done everything that they have needed to do. But the big question is, where's the PRT 73? They're nowhere. They're out.
73, where? Yeah, they're nowhere. What's happened to Max?
Maximilian Beneke came in. There was a pit stop, but the question is, what on earth has happened to them? That's a big one. That's over a lap ago that we've seen this incident. Jimmy, this is huge, and this has just put everything into perspective.
Another PRT car out, and again now for Core Huskenveld, that's going to be a massive advantage. There's another car that hasn't got a pass up for the position, and that was Benecki out in the BMW. And again, it may have been an instant limit. I didn't quite catch what happened to those, but I'm seeing we have a battle well on track between the 04 and the 70 car, which is the Gecko Vortex red car, and the Evo Australian car. Coming out down to Aqua Millerani, these guys, they've been close together for a while actually. I think last time I saw them it was the other way around. Gecko Vortex was behind the Evo Racing Australia car, but that number 10, number 70 car has been putting a pretty consistent race so far, been around 10th the entire race and still there, so good run for them so far. And just to update on our lead, the gap between the leader and Huskenveld has come down to 22 seconds, so no doubt time was gained there by Huskenveld Core in the pit stop.
Yes, and this has completely changed the thing. By my reckoning, I think Maximilian Benecki hasn't had an incident here or there. He was on pit road, and then it just seemed that there was nobody else there to change into. That one has ended the race, so it's another poor day for Pure right now, but they still have a car in fourth. Inex Racing Yellow, they're fifth! Out of all of this, out of all of that, we haven't talked about them at all here, Randy, but their championship, it's still alive, heading to the final round. PJ Sturgis behind the wheel. This is huge.
This is the call they needed to make, and unfortunately they may have lost a little bit of time doing the driver swap and the no tires at the same time, but they, like you said, in fifth place, this is going to keep them alive if they can finish anywhere near here. They have a 4-second gap to Curb Surfers behind and 12 seconds back to Thrustmaster Movano Red. Those are teams that we believe are on tires looking at it right now. Yes, indeed. Curb Surfers, of course, Fabio Gonzalez, he took tires as well, and actually it was a very long stop for Fabio, a minute 21 seconds. That's about 10 minutes north of what we saw everyone else do, so NX Racing Yellow, they've been granted a huge opportunity right now, and they're around a lot of cars that they have a decent gap here. This championship, some people falling out, a lot of people just grasping the opportunity they've been given. Coanda, Heinzfeld, NX Racing Yellow, what a race for them in the penultimate round.
Certainly is. Alexander Voss is the fastest man out of the leading three drivers right now. 0.6 of a second quicker than both Core Sim Racing and VRS Coanda Sport number 18. The gap to the leader is 21.9 seconds and counting down with just 50 minutes under to go. I don't think he can catch for the race win here at the moment, Jimmy, but he can certainly chase for second.
I think that is the realistic expectation here. I'm sure that Santeri in the core car has been made aware of that the other core car, or I don't think they are related, they just have the same name, but behind them and closing in fast. And at the moment, this core sim racing car is having to deal with lap traffic as an Audi in front of them just unlapped himself coming over the pit straight line, and now is sort of giving him a bit of a slipstream, so I guess it's beneficial. But still, having a car sort of buzzing around you is going to put you off slightly, so that may play into the hands of the Huskenveld core team behind.
Yeah, it certainly can. Of course, Core Sim Racing and Huiksingveld Core Motorsports, two completely different teams, as things get very, very difficult when it comes to naming your team here and there. Things that you do need to look out for right now. Fabio Gonzalez, that Thrustmaster Movano red car, still looking to try and catch down the Curb Surfers machine right now. Ilya Molotovshikov, if ever there was such a name to be shouting midway through a broadcast, gets a massive wiggle though through the middle of the corner though at Variante Alta. That's going to be a gap to look at. Inex Racing Yellow also in a little bit of trouble, you could say. And actually looking at the times here from the Curb Surfers machine, is it potentially one of those things here, Randy, where they've not taken tyres again?
No, they've definitely taken tires. The pit stop time confirms that. It was a 1 minute pit stop, and you know, if they didn't skip tires, you would have been looking at something about a 42-43. It's just likely a situation. Ilya Molotovshikov, we talk about it in this series. It is a team series, and if your teammates don't have the same pace as you do, when they get in the car, they're going to fall down the order. So Ilya, I just don't think has the pace out there in the McLaren that his teammate of Nikita Gorlov did, and especially not compared to the likes of PJ Sturgios, Jonas Wallmeyer, Alexander Voss, Jorn Jens, and all the cars in front of him and a number of the cars behind.
Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red, then the 0-4. Close scrap with Inex Racing Blue. Battle for 8th place here on circuit then, and actually allowing the car of the Evolution Racing Australia team to come back into this one. Haven't really talked too much about this, but this one is absolutely fantastic. Core Motorsports 1.4 seconds quicker than last time by, Jimmy.
Voss is just putting in those times again, as he always does. We always look to Voss in these sort of situations to put in the times, and he is delivering. 1.4 seconds quicker on the last lap. Core coming through now just to put in another lap. We'll see what sort of time Santeri does there. He comes across the line just now and does a 1:42.1, so improvement there. Let's see what Alex does behind him. And then Audi, he does a 1:41.4, so goes even quicker. So he's just getting quicker and quicker out there. Voss on a charge.
Yeah, he certainly is, and actually, BRS Coanda Simsport have to worry. Jorn Jens does a 1:41.6, but this is the thing, they have to push here, Randy. They've got no other alternative, and I go back to the Monaco Grand Prix back in the late 80s between Prost and Senna. Prost was 45 seconds back with not enough time to catch up, but he kept on putting fast lap after fastest lap, and in the end, at the Portier barrier, we saw Ayrton Senna there. Very similar situation for Jorn Jens and Coanda Simsport.
Yeah, they're in a situation where they can't just relax, especially because Heinz-Feld Core Motorsports is a championship contender on them. They are praying that the other core car in second place keeps Heinz-Feld behind. They want to maximize the points gain as much as they can. This is one of the most impressive drives I've ever seen from Heinz-Feld Core Motorsports. To serve a drive-through penalty on lap 1, to be all the way down in the back of the grid, and you said at the top of the show, and we talked about it before we ever went live, it's about a 45-second drive-through here. But not only just that, I mean, if you just put yourself on track with another car and try to make up a 45-second gap, it's going to take you a long time. Do that while passing cars to only be 20 seconds behind your pole sitter is one of the most impressive drives, not only in this race, but in terms of being able to keep your championship alive.
This is one of the great achievements, and if they go on to take a title, or even if they don't go to take the title, it's going to be one of those moments where they can look back and they can be proud of exactly what they can do. Gap to the leader, though, between first and third is now under 21 seconds. That just says all you need to know at what was 50 seconds right now. We're going to continue looking at a battle, though, between the 7, Inex Racing Blue, the 04, the Gecko Vortex Racing Red, and there you can see the 17, the Evolution Racing Australia, Blancpain World Championship team right now here, Jimmy. These three fighting it out for the final spots in the top 10, and these guys also have to worry about Orion, who are there just a couple of seconds down the road.
Well, let's see now that difference between the McLaren and the Mercedes in a straight line. We've been saying the McLaren does have the advantage top end here, and he has a slipstream just about from the NX Blue car in front. Will he be able to pull up for a chance at T1? I think he's a bit too far back now, but look at this gap just come down in a straight line, just tucked in behind the Mercedes in front, which is punching a massive hole in the air. Well, no, the McLaren's going up the inside, maybe a bit far back for a move, but he goes for it, brakes late, and that is... Oh, there's contact between the two cars there. The number 7 car being forced wide, loses 2 positions there as the Evolution Racing Australia car just takes advantage of the situation, takes the place as well. So Inex Racing Blue there, mobbed by the 2 cars behind, losing 2 positions in 1 corner.
Let's get a replay of that one then up on your screen for you, because Robin Friscops, in my opinion, there you can see it is a late break in, but he's already there past the corner. I think it's a very difficult one to make. Granted, the car was made there by Thrustmaster Movado Red, but Inex Racing Blue, maybe, Randy, a little bit more wherewithal and that mistake wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that was a really aggressive move. I wouldn't quite call it a dive bomb. Luis Rodriguez was definitely in a position that he'd be able to make the corner there. He did turn in a little bit late, and he was a couple feet off the apex. I think when Robin turned in, I think he expected that car to be over just a little bit more. I think if the McLaren is over that little bit more, that contact doesn't happen, but I don't necessarily put all the fault on the McLaren. I think that's just an aggressive racing incident. Sometimes when things, someone's always going to make an aggressive move, and the car they're trying to pass is always going to defend aggressively. That's just one of those positions, and it just lost out to Inex Racing Blue in that incident. Luckily for them, likely not a bunch of damage, and they can attack back.
Sorry to be the man who just keeps harping on and on and on and on, but this is amazing. Look at the last 3 laps we just seen from Alexander Voss. 141.4, 141.4, 141.4. Look at that gap come down, though. It is down to 4.5 seconds to Santeri Kolunki, who's done a 142.2. That's 0.8 of a second that last lap, Jimmy. That one is certainly going to be a tide they cannot stop.
I'm just sitting here in amazement, frankly, at the consistency of those lap times. That is what is important in these sprint races, not only to be fast, but to be consistent. In this case, Alexander Voss is excelling and dragging that Husqvarna Valcour car back from its drive-through penalty at the start of the race up into 3rd place. And now I think he'll be on the back of this core sim racing car within the next couple of laps. It's about half a second to a second a lap he's taken out of the car in front. When we have just under 40 minutes left, I think that this is going to be a core sim racing position to lose at this point.
And Randy, this isn't even Husqvarna Valcour Motorsport's quickest driver. You look at Kei Kashube, who came in at the back or through the mid part of the season, couldn't join for this season, but will be eligible for next season. This is huge for this one. If Alexander Voss can do something like this, he is starting to put his name in lights as one of the great sim racers here today.
Yeah, Heinz Valcour Motorsports coming into next season is going to have an insane amount of momentum, I think. Even if they don't come away with the championship, they're looking at a new roster. They're going to bring in that new driver of Kei Kashube. I've already talked with him. This is like planned. And Kei Kashube, anyone who's watched the VLN Endurance Series knows that Kei is a master in GT cars. He's a master of the Nürburgring. He's a master of all the circuits they have to offer. He's quicker than Alexander Voss, not by a lot, but he is quicker and he is this consistent. This team, I think, is going to be the favorite going into next season with his addition. Angelo Mickel, Danny Guisa, the rest of those drivers, they certainly aren't bad. Niles Koch as well. They're certainly not bad drivers, but my lord, Kei is god tier.
Well, you could certainly say that. Let's look, though, at the curb surface car. They've been caught by Thrustmaster Movano Red. So Ilya Molotovshikov struggling at the moment at 42.7 his last lap. Compare that to Gonzalez. It's a 42 flat. 7/10 of a second was taken off again. And actually the big thing is that he's not actually gaining time on the lap traffic ahead of him. Ilya Molotovshikov certainly not got as much pace here, Jimmy, as say his teammate did ahead.
He very much seems to be struggling in that McLaren at this point. The curb surface car still putting a good race so far, up into 6th place after all is said and done, but still at this point under quite a lot of pressure from this Thrustmaster Movano Red car coming up to the last part of the course. And like you said, that lap traffic isn't actually getting any closer for that curb surface car. The Movano Red car, currently piloted by Fabio Gonzalez, is coming up right to the back of the curb surface car. I think we may see an attempt maybe into T1, depending on the braking into here, just how much quicker. See the line differences for the McLaren taking a lot shallower line there, almost trying to take advantage of the straight line speed and punching out, but at this point it's really not helping them, especially when they're doing lap times like they are now.
Yeah, right now you can see Thrustmaster Movano looking to close in on 6th place. Started the day in 8th position, up 1. Let's get a look then at your biggest movers and shakers through your field, and Inex Racing Yellow is your big one. Also with that penalty to serve, they've come from 17th, Randy, 17th to 5th.
Well, I mean, yeah, and I think overall the biggest mover and shaker has to be Core Motorsports, though, because yes, they started 4th, but they were essentially last, depending where they came out with Dark Antico and NX Racing Yellow and a couple other cars that had drive-through penalties, and they're up to 3rd. So, technically maybe not the biggest movers, but I think honorably they are. And a fantastic drive from NX Racing Yellow as well to get themselves up into 5th position. I mean, there's been a lot of attrition in this race, and the likes of Heinz Valcour and NX Racing Yellow, they didn't necessarily get into this position just purely on pace. They got there because other teams made mistakes.
Yeah, they certainly are, and at the moment, Coanda, in my opinion, are doing enough to win that gap. Not coming down enough for Core, opening it out to Core Sim Racing. So you have to say Alexander Voss, a 141.5 this time by. Here, look at Santeri Kolunki, another 142.2. That gap comes down under 2 seconds for the first time, and now Core Motorsports can see themselves 2nd place on the podium. This is huge.
It is indeed. Watching Voss still putting in those decent lap times in front of him, I think it's a done deal for Core Sim Racing. And as you're saying that, no, we don't. The time is coming down And we've seen Santeri Kalunki before. He's a decent defending driver at this point, so I think he'll make it tough for Alexander, definitely. Something else well to mention is that that Jonas Volmai in the Pure Racing Team car is actually the fastest guy out of the top 4 drivers. He's to 40.9 in the last lap. He is still 15 seconds down though on the core team, so there's a ways back yet, but he's putting in some pretty consistent lap times coming up to the end of this race.
The big thing, though, you have to look at that one is Pure Racing Team 71, they took tyres, Randy, and that is the big moment which I think has cost them here for what could have been a podium.
Yeah, it really did cost them, but we're not done yet. Core Sim Racing, Hydro's Core, and Coanda, all 3 of them chose not to take tires, and there is a risk there. Remember, we saw Curb Surfers go for no tires, they made a mistake and they spun, and they very easily could, that one of those 3 teams could make a mistake. If it's Core, Pure Racing Team, I think, is in it to pick up a spot. If it's the other Core, they could still potentially pick up a spot as well. It's really confusing when you have 2 teams on the same strategy with the same name, but they're not associated 1.5 seconds apart. I just want to say that and make that clear.
And there you can see there Inex Racing Blue have lost the position then to Virgil Racing Black right there. That is the pass for the top 10, so it looks like Inex Blue are going in a place called backwards. Robin Friscop's there behind the wheel. Kimi Asuminyemi then looking to try and close back up to Benjamin Smith of the Evolution Racing Australia Blancpain World Championship team. Nice bit of a mouthful there to get through right now. And of course Luis Rodriguez there for the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red team. Now this is one of those interesting ones we look at, Jimmy. Luis Rodriguez was up at second, qualified second on the grid. That incident that we saw in the opening 5-10 minutes, that has set the precedence for their race. That is why they are now a minute down the field.
It's the thing of these sort of races, if you don't keep out of trouble, you end up getting damage early. It pretty much ruins your race. But I'm going to go back to the battle for a second, if you don't mind, Jake, because it's really hotting up now as Alexander Voss has reeled in Santeri Kalunki in that Core Sim Racing car. I think this might be it coming up the hill, and look how much grunt the Audi has in comparison to the BMW. The BMW just a little bit less power in there, arguably better in the corners, and they're coming up now to the Variante Alta, last part of the course. Now, let's see what they're like over the curbs. Look at that BMW, nice and poised over there. The Audi are a little bit slower, but now the Audi grunt coming to effect. And I think we might see a move coming into T1, but we aren't there just yet. Coming down the hill, as you said earlier, very difficult braking zone here because you're turning and going downhill at the same time. You have to brake earlier than you think you do, just cutting on the curb a little bit now. This last little left hand of the kick, this will set up Alexander for the overtake into T1. If he gets a good run, he gets an okay run, but he's going to have a 6th stream, and the BMW is slow in a straight line, so here we are. It's closing up now, closing the gap. Temps turned into hundredths, turned into thousands. We go alongside the BMW. There you go. This is a battle for second position. Huskin Valvoid coming up the inside. Alexander Voss is done early and before the corner there. That straight line speed really coming into effect. And Huskin Valcourt from that penalty at the start of the race, from nearly a minute down, come back and are now in second position. Outstanding work.
It's going to be one of those things you hear over the Coanda radio where you're going to hear, okay, we've had a change for position, we've got a new car in second, the driver's going to go, who is it? It's Huijsen Belcourt Motorsports, and they go, how on earth have they done that? And well, they're now up into second, and now pressure is going to start to tell. Gap under 20 seconds right now. It's not going to be caught, in my opinion, over the next 35 minutes or so. It took 3 seconds out of it in the last sort of 15-20 minutes. It's not going to happen, but now Coanda have to stay calm, Randy. It's not going to be a case of they need to run away and win it. They just need to hold on and win it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's Alexander Voss could bring that gap down. He is that fast. That Audi is definitely suited to this track, I'd say, more so than the BMW. We just didn't get to see it in the race trim. But it's a really big ask to try to get that position, and I'd have to say they're probably going to be happy with a second place coming out of this. I don't think in this team's wildest dreams, if you pulled one of those drivers aside before the race and you told them, hey, you guys are going to finish second today, they'd probably look at you like you were a fool and say, no way, we're going to finish outside of the top 20, considering they were in a very similar situation as Spa, arguably a better position considering they just had to start from 20th as opposed to dead last, and in 6 hours they only got to third. Here, in just 2.5 hours, they get to second.
Yeah, they do, and that is just paramount about what they've done. Again, a 1:41.4 from Alexander Voss, really showing that he can reel it in. Compare that last lap with the VRS Quanta SimSport AT machine. That's a 1:41.8. Granted, not going to be close, but again, time is coming down. Even with the overtake, he is starting to find that pace again and again and again and again. We see it. Again, we see just how close things can be. Curb Surface car, though, seems to have the legs over Thrustmaster Movano Red. Battle for 6th place out on circuit right now. If they're not careful, they are going to allow the Evolution Racing Australia car to come through. Already through on the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red car here, Jimmy.
Yeah, I thought by now the Movano Red car would have overhauled that Curb Surface car, but I'm going to assume...
Oh no, I'm cutting in! NX Racing Yellow is off the racetrack.
Oh no, and that could be championship deciding, and they are in a load of trouble, the number 11, and that has ended it. PJ Sturgis then, replay up on screen then. Let's get this one sorted. This one has happened straight down the front straightaway, and there is nothing that has happened from my eyes. That one looks like technical issues here.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you have to deal with in this sort of racing. You don't have mechanical failures, but technical issues can strike, and it's striking a couple teams already, and this is disaster for NX Racing Yellow, coming off a drive-through, going all the way through the field to be running in 5th place, and to be plagued by this. PJ Sturgis, this might put him on tilt, not only for the final round of this championship, but the final round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze at Homestead, knowing that they can lose it in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, that is the big thing, and that is heartbreaking for NX Racing Yellow. They were so good. They were in such a position, and now this has put it through in, and yet confirmation, it is technical for PJ Sturgis there, and it has all fallen apart for NX Racing here. They were in a situation here, Jimmy, where they were first and tied third coming into this one. Now they're going to be in the doldrums, and they're going to be out of this championship fight for the title. It now surely has to come down between one of only a few teams left.
It just shows you what the difference one race can make. In this case, you know, NX Yellow coming in to lead the championship, retiring, and then, NX Red, sorry. Was it Yellow? Apologies. One of them did, and then both of them out. Both of them DNF, so no points at all for either of them. As you said, it's just absolutely heartbreaking. Again, we're having a battle here between the 70 and the 4 car. I'm just going to very quickly put this up on the screen. There it is, Evo Racing Australia and Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red, still actually with that Evo Racing Australia car. We saw the Evo car actually overtake the Vortex car a couple of laps ago, but the Gecko car is still in contention, but no doubt down to the McLaren straight line again. These guys are fighting for 7th and 8th place, so a good showing for both these guys, especially the Evo Racing car, considering they were down in 10th before the pit stop started. So they've made up, obviously with the DNFs and whatnot, but they've made up a couple of positions there as well, so good for them. Something else I want to keep an eye on while we're here is the Pure Racing Team number 71 car. They're currently lapping over a second and a half faster than the Core Sim Racing car in front, and at this current lap pace they will catch that car before the end of the race, so 3rd place is not decided as of yet.
No, it certainly isn't, and there is still time remaining to close that one down. It's 13 seconds to Hoykinsing Velcor Motorsports. They're doing enough, in my opinion, to get that gap sorted, but the Pure Racing Team 71, they've got themselves in fantastic position here to pull themselves into a great fight. Ilya Molotovshikov then, of the curb surfers, dealing with Fabio Gonzalez. Now a fight for the top 5. It's not often that you get to say that between these two teams, but one which they will want to take to the bank and hold for a long time coming right now. Gap not close enough, 0.3 of a second when they cross the line, but Gonzalez, he's been there for a long time. I think he's playing mind games here, Randy.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be playing a part at this point. I mean, you're dealing with a team that made a big strategy call in the middle part of the race. It looked like it was working out decently well for them, and then they had a spin, and now you have to just reel them in. There's a good chance they're already stressed considering how this race has gone with the spin. You just sit back there and you just work. Talking about NX Racing Yellow just a little bit, they still have a drop week to work with, so their championship hopes aren't dashed yet. Important to note, their worst finish is 6th, so this would be this would be a perfect race to drop. All the other runners in the championship do have worse finishes that they're currently dropping. As I say that, Ilya, he gets loose coming through the double right-hander here. And Jimmy, this is going to bring Fabio back into it.
His big kick there from Throttle Airs, trying to get on the accelerator just a little bit too early in the back of the car, stepping out. As we now, Fabio Gonzalez is the closest he's been for a while, coming down the hill into the last section of the circuit. And this is where I think this is why Curb Service have been holding the position. They've just got that grunt and that McLaren. Although look at the difference in braking there between the two cars. Fabio closing the gap right up, coming into the last portion of the circuit. Now out of the last left-hander. What grunt has that McLaren got on the straight line? Plenty. Says that Curb Service car as it pulls away. Look at it, just strides away from the Audi in a straight line. I think the Audi may be running a bit more wing than the McLaren here.
Yeah, certainly is right now as we're moving on through. Fabio Gonzalez still can't get himself close. Interesting thing to note right now is that Inex Racing yellow car, the number 11 machine, is back out on circuit, but crucially, it's not PJ Sturgis behind the wheel. It's his brother. It's Jake Sturgis here, Randy. Now, this puts fair use into question. If PJ Sturgis hadn't had enough time in that Inex Racing yellow car, that's going to score no points. As things stand in 17th position, they'll get something, but not what they want.
I'm not sure what the penalty would be on that, because the penalty is mostly is for abusing the system, and I'd have to say having someone getting dropped and then someone else getting in, I don't think that they would get I don't know if they'd get dinged with that. I don't think that falls under fair use if a technical issue hits, but because it's not like they benefit from this at all. They burn a drop week and they're going to finish down just within your top 20, so I think it's all fair game here.
Yes, certainly is not. But you look at Jonas Wallmeyer there in the Pure Racing Team 71, a 141.3 that last time by. Look out for Santeri Kalunki, 142.4, another 1.1 seconds. That gap now comes down to within 8 right now here, Jimmy, and that one is going to come down in the last 5-10 minutes of this race.
It is. It's something to definitely keep an eye on. I think that's going to be our climax. It's going to be a Pure Racing Team coming up to the back of Core. Meanwhile, Fabio again right on the back of that McLaren, just not having the straight line speed, able to make any sort of move into T1. That curb surface car currently driven by Ilya Molotowskikov, that is a difficult one to say, is managing to keep the gap there with that pure straight line grunt from McLaren. But again, we come into the T1 and the Audi closes right back up again. It must be very frustrating for that Navano car to just have to work it all for that lap and see it all go away again on the straight.
Yeah, and actually something to note is that group behind 4-car train, all for position. Benjamin Smith, Kimi Asumanyemi, Luis Rodriguez and Robin Friskops there. Inex Racing Blue, Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red, Virgil Racing Black and the Evolution Racing Australia Blancpain World Championship team there as they head into the left-hander of Tozer. And again, running a little bit wide there was the car of Luis Rodriguez, completely brake checking Robin Friskops midway through the corner. And well, you have to say, Robin Friskops, he was very lucky to see it late. If he was just a tenth of a second missing that brakes, he'd be right into the back of him, and we could be seeing penalties dished out for the Nürburgring season finale.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know what the penalty situation is for that team right now. I was really mostly focused on our championship frontrunners coming into this, and it was Inex Racing Yellow that, of course, had the strike and got dinged. Blue might have a strike, although I can't really think of any incidents they've been involved with, but I might be misremembering things. But this four-way scrap at the end, I mean, what a race this has been after 3 hours. Drama up and down the field, pit strategy drama, penalty drama, and it's still not over yet. Multiple battles coming to fruition here in the closing stages.
That gap, though, between third and fourth, it's 6.4 seconds, so another huge chunk of time comes out from Jonas Wallmeyer, and this one is going to come down to the wire. It might finish up in the next 6 laps. 6 laps, you're looking at the next 10 minutes, and then there's an even bigger question to be asked. It's Alexander Voss. Does he have enough to hold on? It's another 6 seconds to there, so potentially Wallmeyer's running half a second a lap quicker at the moment than him. This could be one of those things, Jimmy, where it could be second after all of those troubles.
Maybe that is the case. I'm hearing the number 70 car's had an off somewhere as well. I didn't quite catch it. I'll just have a very quick look back at our replay. Yeah, off at T1 there. Contact with, which car is that? Sorry, I can't see the number.
Virgil Racing Black.
77 car, sorry, just going through that. Just a bit of contact there and stuff with Phil. I think you just see Benjamin Smith there just wiggling to make sure he's got no damage. He seems okay, a bit of body work, but lost about 3 to 4 positions there, I think.
Yeah, did lose 3 to 4 positions, and more crucially than that, loses a bit of time as well, which he'll have to try and work back up in the later bit of the lap right now as we go straight through a tree, apparently just there. So right now looking on forward again, Gonzalez and Molotov-Shikov then getting themselves in a scrap, into the right, into the left, and you can see all over the curb and a massive wiggle from Molotov-Shikov. Gets lucky, gets himself going forward because Gonzalez runs a little bit wide through that apex. So both of these cars struggling right now at the latter half of this stage, Randy.
Yeah, and the curb surface guys are pushing really hard. I think this would be the best finish of their championship. They're running really strong at Monza, and they unfortunately got taken out doing it to an incident. They want a top 5, and they want it bad.
Yeah, they really want this one more than anything else, but again, they're just not close enough, and they need to find a little bit more. These lap times, 1:42.7, 1:42.8. You look behind at the likes of Assuming Amy here, 1:42.2 that last time by. That one could also close. That one could be stolen from them in the latter stages of this race. They've got to be incredibly careful moving on forward that nothing bad happens to them. But that gap again, we look at pure versus core. That one now, under 5 seconds, a 41 flat meets a 42.5. It's a second and a half a lap. This one's closing down here, Jimmy. This one is going to be 3 laps away from fruition.
Yeah, wondering what you said earlier about the distance of core. I think that core motorsports will be safe just about. I think the PRT will be close towards the end, but not quite close enough to challenge that second position. But at the rate that Jonas Wallmeyer is going in that McLaren, he's going to be on Santario within 3 or 4 laps. If we go 1:42.5 on the previous lap, what laps has he done now, Santario? He comes across the line, does a 1:42.7. PRT on the same stretch of road now does a 1:41.1. So there you go, 1.6 seconds between the two, and they're on the same stretch of track now, and that McLaren is a beast in a straight line. So as soon as it gets anywhere near that core car in a straight line, it's going past it.
Yeah, that is seemingly to be the way forward. Let's then look at Jonas Wallmeyer then through Tamburello over the curb. Nicely done. And now he puts himself on that power as he heads himself into Villeneuve chicane there. First part, second part, nicely there over the curb. Lots of curb taken there on the exit as everyone else normally does. Tozer now, the very difficult hairpin here. This left-hander now back up the hill and making sure that he closes more and more on Santeri Kalunkian. What's even more heartbreaking for Kalunki right now, he's in a BMW right now here, Randy. He can't defend against a McLaren that is staring down at him at a second and a half a lap.
Yeah, there's no way he can do that because that pace is being made up through the corners rather than, going just on the straightaways. I mean, that's where all that pace is being found. He has a speed on the straights is, of course, helping, but it's on the brakes, going through the middle of the corner. That's where Santeri's losing all the time, and that's where in the BMW you want to be strong. Of course, it's a double-edged sword for Santeri, and he kind of got the short end of the stick for multiple reasons because he's out there on old tires. Maybe if they had taken tires, yeah, they wouldn't have had the gap to PRT, but maybe he'd be able to hold off more. It was a gamble for them, and they want, the podium really bad. And, it's just a mix of Santeri likely not being as quick as Jonas, old tires, and car discrepancy that I think is going to catch out course sim racing here today.
Yeah, we're inside now, the final 20 minutes of your event. Another 1:41.1 from Jonas Wallmeyer. Kalunki a 42.7, another one, and it's the gap closing again. It's now down to 1.6 seconds here, and it is closing. And at this current rate here, you have to say the pass is coming this lap. It's not coming next, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're going to see the pass come at the end of this lap on the straight, although saying that the core sim racing car went very wide there through the chicane, but now coming up the hairpin. Again, this is where the McLaren's top speed and punching come into effect, getting a bit wiggly there. Maybe Jonas getting that a little bit too excited at the prospect of taking third place. He needs to just make sure he keeps putting in this lap times. When you start getting close to the guy in front, it's very easy to sort of be a bit overzealous with the throttle, but at this point it's a done deal, so just keep it on the road and it'll be done. But coming through Acqua Minerale now, and again, look how close he's going. So you can see visually just how quickly he's closing.
Yeah, it is one of these visible things when you see moving forward. You can see the 71 really starting to close it more and more into the Variante Alta. He comes for the 94th time in this motor race at the moment. The leader comes across the line right now. That is VRS Coanda Sim Sports number 18. That is Jorn Jens behind the wheel, and that is fantastic. Second place at the moment is Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports. They'll be coming across the line in around about now, and you can see that gap certainly closing in more. 16.6 seconds now, the gap between your leaders. This is your scrap for the final spot on the podium, and it's a hard-charging Jonas Wallmeyer here, trying to get himself past. Here's Santeri Kalunki. Core Sim Racing versus Pure Racing Team. Not close enough yet, Randy, but now breathing heavy over the back of the Core Sim Racing car.
Yeah, that fire-spitting McLaren smells blood in the water. He gets a little loose there, but even getting loose, he doesn't lose any time hardly at all due to the traction advantage of the new tires. Now, hard braking for the uphill, or excuse me, for the second chicane, and he's just able to hold on here, just maintaining the gap through the first part of the chicane. Now up into Tosa, and that McLaren is there tucked right under the rear wing of the Santeri Kalunki and Core Sim Racing. I think turn one, that's going to be nailing the coffin for a podium for Core Sim Racing here today.
It certainly is. Will he have a look at Piratella? No, not close enough yet into the 90-degree left-hander corner. It really doesn't feel like 90 degrees when you go there around it, but now Acque Minerale down onto the brakes. No real opportunity to get yourself down the inside through a corner like that, up the hill. And here's where the grunt's going to happen. Maybe a look at the Variante Alta. It is one line, suits all through there. Could be a potential move. No, waits behind. Very calm, very considerate. And Jimmy, this is about time where you see the inevitable start to happen.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you wanted a visual representation of the difference in top speed between these two cars, this will be it. Obviously, bear in mind the BMW is on worn tyres versus the McLaren on non-worn tyres, and you can see that BMW struggling for grip going through the first left-hander and through second, but here it is. Foot to the floor, the fire-spitting McLaren, as Randy said, now getting in that slipstream of BMW, which is only going to speed up. The inevitable goes to the inside. There is absolutely nothing Santeri Kalunki can do in that Core Sim Racing car as he's passing in a straight line like he's dead going into T1. We might see the 24 car come back at him in the first corner, but no, the grip is there, the McLaren, and that is third place for the PRT 71 car. A fantastic drive for them today.
Something else that we need to talk about right now, it's the 36, it's Team Red Line Black, and this is something which they've caused of their own accord. Speeding in pit lane on the final pit stop, had to serve a drive-through penalty, and now they are a second a lap quicker than the car ahead. That's the Evolution Racing Australia car, and you know what, if they continue at this pace, with the time that there's left remaining, they could charge through legitimately everyone up ahead of them, and the top 5 isn't too far away there, Randy.
It's close. It is really close for Team Redline Black and Tommy Haka. I think a top 5 would be a little bit too much. He's quick right now, but I don't think he's quick enough. And you know, you're talking about the closing stages. We're under 20 minutes to go at this point. If that's going to happen, he needs to close that gap quickly, and he essentially needs to pass multiple cars per lap.
Yeah, and you can see right now Virgil Black's got himself through on Thrustmaster Movano Red, and now they're under threat from the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red and Inex Racing Blue then. Scrap 7th, 8th, 9th on circuit right now, and Virgil Black can now go play a game of chase then to the Curb Surfers machine. Everything going on inside your top 5 right now, everyone going inside your top 10. But there is a story developing here at the top of this one, and that's VRS Coanda have put themselves up, and the lights flashing on the McLarens as they want to just get themselves away as quickly as they can, Jimmy.
This is going to be a fantastic battle here for 7th position. It's definitely a thing to watch at the moment. I'm wondering how that McLaren will be on the straight. We've seen before where that Movano red car has been behind Luis Rodriguez in the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red McLaren and just not have that pace to be able to do anything in a straight line. But now the tables are turned, the McLaren's behind the Audi. Kind of that slipstream as we saw behind, as we saw previously in the last lap with the core cars, just overhauling the BMW in a straight line. Will it be the same for the Audi? The Audi isn't quite as slow, but then behind them, getting the double draft, is that number 7 car, the NX Racing Blue car, looking to come back through the field. So I'm just looking from his perspective now. He's dropping back a bit on the McLaren, and now we see again that glorious McLaren punch in straight line. Best of British engineering right there, ladies and gentlemen. As we come up the inside, no, looking at it, it's slipstream now up the inside of the Audi. Will it be a move made? How does the Audi respond? Going to break that little bit out of it. Let's see the McLaren pass. Doesn't want to fight too hard at this point in the race, and that is Gecko Vortex back up into 7th place. And disturbance behind has also let the Linux Racing blue car come up behind the Thrustmaster Milano red car. So any move on track, any little differential for line can cause a domino effect back down the field, meaning that Robin Friscorps now is now right up behind. Oh no, but there he nearly spins it there, gets from the curb and nearly spins. Maybe I should just not say his name, he'll do fine.
Yeah, and you look there behind him as well. Matthias Egger is doing 41.5s and could take the lot here, ladies and gentlemen, here all the way behind Robin Friscorps right now into Piratella. Can he get close? Close, but not close enough. No real overtaking opportunity then for that Orion race team outlet. There is Benjamin Smith there in the distance, and looking further back, Tommy Hacker doing 141.5s as well, closing down the gaps. This one's certainly not over. Towards the end of your motor race, we are under 15 minutes to go. Kimi Asuminyemi then is through on Ilya Molotovchikov and is struggling. You can see, struggled a lot through that corner. And Luis Rodriguez of the Gecko Vortex Sim Racing team, it's going to be a very, very close one. It's going to be McLaren versus McLaren here as we look at this one here, Randy.
Yeah, going down now into your final corner, and Gecko Vortex versus Curb Surfers, who has a lower wing setting, and Vortex gets a masterful run. I don't think wing setting might even matter. You see that McLaren's lights flashing, they come down the front straightaway, and Vortex already pulls out of the slipstream over to the left, getting themselves set up for that inside move onto the brakes going into corner number 1. Luis Rodriguez is going to have to be an aggressive move, and it's going to be an aggressive move clear before they ever turn in. Gecko Vortex up another spot in this race, up into your top 6.
Well, fantastic work from them as they continue to try and charge, continue to try and get themselves forward. But at the moment, it seems that that's going to be the end of the road. You look up to Virgil Racing Black. Virgil Racing Black have about 50 seconds to try and catch on Core Sim Racing. That one ain't happening. You can see Friscorps getting a bit frisky. Goes down the inside at Toza and will take the position away from Fabio Gonzalez. But Gonzalez fights back on the outside as they're going to go side by side with a little under 11 minutes to go. Almost coming to blows. And they're going to go stay side by side into Piratella. And it's held on by Friscorps, Jimmy.
That was a close one. I was afraid we were going to see contact between the two cars, and that would have been a collision for the that would have ended one of their races definitely. But behind them, Matthias Egger again making advantage of that. He's just waiting for a mistake from either of these cars in front. Currently sitting in 10th position. He could quite easily gain 2 or 3 places here. There's a mistake in front. Let's see how he compares to the Thrustmaster Milano car in front. Let's see how his lines compare. And in front as well, I'm seeing the Inex Racing blue car right up behind the Curb Surfers car. When's that happen? Looks like the Curb Surfers car is really struggling for pace at the moment. Let's see if the Inex Racing blue can make the most of that coming through the last corners. Again, we've seen that McLaren very fast in a straight line. The Mercedes not that slow though. Again, a better run out of the last corner for the Inex Racing blue car, but it's just going to suffer here in a straight line. The slipstream not quite enough to get him alongside, but I think this is something you need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jimmy. And, you know, the end of this race, I mean, it's coming down to the wire for everyone here towards the tail end of your top 5. And I think even if you're Koanda SimSport, you know, as we're trying to keep track of all the action, how do you feel about this race, Jimmy? I mean, you're talking about you had a 40-second advantage over Core, and they brought it down to 50. Actually, it's probably more than that, let's be honest. I mean, how do you, I mean, for both of you, how do you guys feel if you're Koanda SimSport about this win, knowing that they were on the back foot, knowing that they were literally behind everybody, and they're still within a straightaway of you once the checkered flag eventually will wave?
Well, I think in this case, definitely for Koanda, it won't matter. It doesn't matter how you get to the end and how you get to your first place. You've won the race. You have done the best. You have done the best strategy to get there. I mean, obviously, bear in mind that you could say that the core team may have been that little bit more aggressive, considering they had the penalty and really had nothing to lose in this case. But you can identify that's an impressive feat, but you are still the one walking away the victor. And I think maybe there'll be a little. Some of the drivers may see it as a hollow victory, but I definitely wouldn't if it were me in the car. I still say we won this race fairly, regardless of penalty.
Well, this is one of those things you need to look at. You get dealt the cards you're given at the start of the race. Those were the parameters you had to work with, and that is exactly what we need to see. Battle between the 21 and the 9. Thrustmaster Movado Red loses the position to Matthias Egger now, who can break away and catch Friscorps and Molotovchikov. But also behind that, Tommy Hacker has caught the car of Benjamin Smith. Now this is huge, ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the championship. Redline aren't out of it just yet, but they need to score as many points as they can to numb the damage, and maybe they would still have an outside chance going into the final race of the season at the Nürburgring, and they haven't had themselves that race win so far yet, Randy, but this is one where they need to make the move on Smith now or never.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a situation where if they want to have any hope of this championship, they need to be aggressive. Tommy needs to get into the slipstream, he needs to get a great run off that final corner, and he needs to chuck that Redline black car up into the inside somewhere to be able to make a move. He needs spots, and he needs as many of them as he can possibly get, but we're under 10 minutes to go now, 8 minutes left in this motor race, just about 5 to maybe 6 laps to go, depending on when the leader crosses the line. Yeah, I mean, if you're Tommy Haka, you have to make moves. You have no choice. You can't take a 12th place finish and expect to have any hope of winning the championship at the Nürburgring.
No, you certainly don't. You can see all over the back of Benjamin Smith, and gets closer and closer still. Done it by his own accord, by running himself too fast in pit lane. You can see close, not close enough down into the right left of the Variante Alta, but you can see there, doesn't get as tight there on the curves. He's forcing the driver ahead to take incredibly aggressive lines here, but could be close enough, you could say, down in towards turn number 1. Once again, the gaps are starting to open up a little bit for Tommy Hacker, running out of time, and give him 10 more minutes and he might have it, but he misses the apex through the final corner there, the second Ravazza, and that's going to be enough to say, you know what, I'm going to struggle to catch you on this back straightaway. I don't think I've got enough, and that's huge for Tommy Hacker here, Jimmy. He's losing time, and Redline Black's championship is fading from their grasp.
It just looked like Tommy forgot to turn in there. It's not been one of his better performances with the drive-through penalty and obviously some of the mistakes we're seeing at the moment, but it does look like that Evo Racing Australia car is damaged at the front, which I think is affecting its straight line speed a little bit. That's why we're seeing Tommy reeling in so quickly, but that could have been the pass there, that could have been made. He could be on to the next one, so to speak, but now he's got to spend another lap behind this car, going at the pace that the Evo Racing Australia car is going, and that's going to cost him dear. Like you said, these guys are racing for the championship, and racing this and finishing this far down is going to be absolute murder for any attempt they have left.
Matthias Egger then of the Orion Race Team all over the back of Inex Racing Blue and the Curb Surfers then. A McLaren, two McLarens then, and of course Inex Racing Blue sitting pretty as well in the middle of that one. McLaren sandwich, ladies and gentlemen. Not often we get to see those here, but you can see again Friskop's looking for that opportunity. You can see those alternative lines being taken just to find that way through, and in my opinion there, he's lifting and coasting a little bit. You can see just how much braking Fabio Gonzalez there can do behind her. He's taking a spin, and there goes Ilya Molotovshikov's chances at holding on to a top 6. That one has ended in tears, Randy.
I think that's the second time Curb Surfers have spun in that corner. I think that's where they went around the first time as well. So that McLaren definitely not liking that chicane here at Imola. We've seen a couple other spins here as well, but I think they're the only team to spin here multiple times. What was it? I think it was just, actually no, it wasn't even the inside curb. It was just the AstroTurf on the outside, just a little bit too much on throttle, just a little bit too much wheel spin, sent that TL06 machine around.
Matthias Egger in the pits.
Egger's day is pretty much over. Has to fill up and splash and dash with little under 5 minutes to go here in your motor race. So another promotion for Tommy Hacker. He now moves up inside the top 10. He is now 9th position right now as things I've got on circuit right now, and still behind Benjamin Smith. So this is now starting to play into his hands. This is working now for the driver of Tommy Hacker, who too did all the work. Hacker's potentially lost the championship for Redline, but now it's not about that. It's about trying to score points, trying to find that time. You are a little under 5 minutes remaining. You are looking now just to bring the car home, and that's what Alexander Voss will do. That's what the driver of, say, Jorn Jens needs to do at the front of the field. Nothing more can be done. There's no chance of overtaking, but what there is right now here, Jimmy, is one of those things where Coanda just need to bring the car home.
It's definitely their race to lose at this point. We've seen a couple of mistakes in the last part of the race. Curb Surfers obviously the most prolific, losing themselves a good 3 or 4 places. They're right towards the end of the race. As you said, Tommy Hacker is the one that will be the one smiling beside his helmet. Maybe not a smile of a smile of relief, as says he'll be moving into 9th place, I think, soon as he comes back down, touching behind the Evo Racing Australia car. and this is going to be it. I think he needs to make this move soon, otherwise he's going to be finishing in 10th position. We're coming up now, I think just under a minute to go, and there you go, again another mistake by Tommy. The stint has been littered with that, just getting on the throttle too early, the car wobbling out of the apex of the corner, and that is another opportunity to take this ninth position gone.
I think he's pushing too hard right now. He knows what he's done. He knows the big pressure that's put on him, and he knows that he needs to do something. But at the moment, Benjamin Smith's just placing the car in all the right positions, doing what he needs to do to hold on to that 9th place. And you know what? It's a very, very credible effort from that Evolution Racing Australia car. It's got to be, what, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that they're racing? It shows just how dedicated that team can be. And this is a great result from all that could be right now. Time is a ticking, and you can see Hacker now all over the back. And Randy, this one has to be done within the next 2 to 3 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, Tommy has to get this move done, especially if he has any hope of getting another car maybe within that time frame, because I think he's quicker than all these guys in front. He's just not consistent enough, like Jimmy keeps saying. He keeps making mistakes, but as I say that, the car spun around. It's Francisco Lopez, Pure Racing Team number 12. He's already positions down, so that's not going to help Tommy in any way. He's trying to get a run coming into Verente Alta on Benjamin Smith, but not quite close enough. I think it has to be going into turn 1. But Tommy, you have to be perfect, not only on the entry, you have to be perfect on the exit.
He's got to find the perfect 10. Right now he's running at 6 and 7 and needs to find a little bit more. Maybe down into Ravazza, gets himself, moves a little bit out, but can't do it into the first part, losing a lot of time, slowing that car down. Second part has been his nemesis, his kryptonite. And again, I don't think he's quite close enough. There's slipstream from Gonzalez ahead of him for Thrustmaster Movado Red. Now he is slower than both of these cars. That could come into effect. It could be, in the end of this all, an 8th place finish, but at the moment I don't think he's close enough. He might have to send this one down the inside. A bit of a defensive line. There's contact between the two, and straight on he goes. Straight on goes the car of Benjamin Smith, and oh my word, well, fair play to Tommy Hacker. He stays behind him and says, you know what, you keep that position. I'm sorry I've done that to you, my man, but that is just desperation, and it's cost him, and that could cost him even further moving on forward, Jimmy.
Fantastic job there for Benjamin Smith, keeping that car pointing in a straight line and avoiding the spin. Also more damage to the back of that car now, so that car is beaten up but still ahead of the Tommy Hacker there. We call that a gentleman rule in racing. He's owned up his mistake and left it as it was, but this is the last lap now, so this is where it counts. Tommy Hacker needs to make this move, needs to make it stick for that 9th place, otherwise he's going to be sitting here in 10th.
Yeah, it is at the moment, and he's got himself a lap and a bit to do it right now. He doesn't have long, but there isn't really anything else he can do. He knows he's tried to make that move once, made that contact. Hasn't happened for him right now, and you have to say there is a lot of things that need to be looked at going forward. We've seen dramas of all sorts. We've seen missing pit entry. You've seen overshooting the box. We've seen going too fast down the pit lane. We have seen the likes of which we've seen technical issues. We've seen disqualifications, and Hacker to the inside then as he looks for the opportunity once again, and they're going to remain side by side as they go through. We will need to cut to your race leader at some stage because he's going to round the final corner very, very soon. Hacker is through, but we'll need to look at that one at turn number 1 right now. But there is one thing that you need to say. There is one driver who is out and away and has done it perfectly. There is one team that's done it perfectly, and they take the initiative going to the Nürburgring, and it's Jorgens behind the wheel. Fierce Kawada win it at Imola in emphatic fashion. What a race, but are they going to just slow it down? Yes, they will. Jens wins it for Virus Kawanda. It will be 2nd place for Hoixing Velcor Motorsports Drive of the Day candidate. You absolutely betcha. From a penalty at the start of the race to 2nd, it is a world-class achievement. Warmire will come home 3rd. For the Pure Racing Team 71, Santeri Kalunki, they're home in 4th for the Core Sim Racing team. And now we look back for Tommy Hacker, because this one is very, very crucial. I don't think he'll catch at the moment, Randy. I don't think he's close enough to Fabio Gonzalez.
No, there's no way. Only a handful of corners left. Tommy, it was a great move to get yourself up in a 9th place, but really too little too late, I think, at this point. You needed that move done 4 laps ago.
Yeah, it is one of these things for Tommy Hacker. It's going to be Virgil Racing Black from 19th to 5th. What an understated performance that is from them. They're normally nowhere near, but now they've got themselves sorted right now. You can see here, this is going to be coming home for 6th. Will be the car of Luis Rodriguez Gecko Vortex Sim Racing Red, showing that the McLaren can certainly do everything there. Friscops followed by Gonzalez, and there is Tommy Hacker and Redline Black, and that will hurt Jimmy moving to the Nürburgring.
It will hurt indeed. I mean, that is not a performance that we expect to see from Redline. The drive-through penalty for pit lane speeding is what did it definitely in this case, but obviously the contact as well, it just seemed a bit sloppy. I think we still have a battle going on track actually.
Yeah, we do the 12 and the 83 then. They came down to the line, and in the end, it was the 12 who just about took it, I do believe. But you can see right now, pretty much everyone is finished apart from the car of Miguel Martin. Let's get yourself through then a rundown of your final results from here at Imola. Coanda do enough to take the advantage, going through to the final race of the season at the Nürburgring, and it is a win of 14.5 seconds over the Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports team. Your racing team get themselves home in 3rd on changing tyres at the final stint. Core Sim Racing, a fantastic result for them in 4th with 5th place to the Virgil Racing Black team. Gecko Vortex Sim Racing then coming home in 6th, 7th for Inex Racing Blue, Trustmaster Bavano in 8th, what could have been for Redline Black in 9th, and it's the Evolution Racing Australia Blancpain World Championship team rounding outside your top 10. Looking further down, the curb surfers come home in the end in 12th position, last of the cars in the lead lap, and there you can see cars that all struggled, the likes of Orion having to make another stop. Inex with technical difficulties there, they put themselves a lap down, and cars that failed to finish in the end of that one, the likes of Dark Ontigo, Inex Racing Red getting disqualified. That's huge moving forward. And you look at those that go down, like the Macau Racing Buttercup and Virgil Racing Yellow, all in trouble. Well, at the moment, we're going to take ourselves a very quick break. And when we come back, driver interviews with your race winners and then some. Next on Racesport TV.
Since 2010, the highest echelon of sim racing competition has focused on NASCAR and Grand Prix racing. 50 of the best drivers in the world doing battle for championship glory. Each man for himself, and even though there may be teammates on track, each driver is in command of his own destiny. Until now. 2016 sees the start of a new era in World Championship competition, with team racing getting its chance in the spotlight. No longer can one driver rule supreme, but you must rely on those with whom you share a car, a setup, a strategy. Endurance racing can be very different to other forms of motorsports, with races in this series lasting either 3 or 6 hours. Teams of 2 or 3 drivers, perhaps on opposite sides of the world, will share seat time, each having to collectively work towards one common goal. Crash out, and it's not just you who you let down. Officially sanctioned by SRO, it will be teams of drivers who will go head to head, car to car, rival to rival, in the pursuit of a championship. And there's over $25,000 in cash and prizes up for grabs. Some of the world's biggest sim racing teams are represented. There's also a group of teams who haven't seen this stage before, who want to make their mark and say we can hang with the best. The team racing revolution is here. It's loud, it's exciting, and it lives on iRacing Live, starting April 23rd.
what brilliant action we have seen this afternoon around the circuit of Imola. We have seen everything under the sun, and at the moment, the win has gone to VRS Coanda Sinsport number 18. Jorn Jens joining us right now. Jorn, that first stint by Marcus Lenderman, you get yourself on pole position, you break away to a gap of 5 seconds, and in the end, it wasn't really too much of a challenge for you, but you see that first pit stop coming, you see the likes of Redline Black not take tyres. Is that something that plays into your mind through the second stint?
Well, first, it was an absolutely amazing qualifying and first stint by Marcus. Very, very quick. We did not actually expect that we would qualify that far up front, and even on, not even on pole. Yeah, and then he could keep the lead with some cushion to the cars behind. And yeah, we already expected some cars to gamble on tires because the weather was very cold here, and yeah, you could make the tires work for 2 stints.
Yeah, you could make the tyres work for 2 stints, but the big difference looking at that first stint was you look at those people putting their hands up, like the curb surfers, like Redline Black. They hold their hands up and say, you know what, I'm losing time. They lose those positions for the lead again. You take the lead, and then your decision to take that second stint. Granted, yes, you can do it, but was that a strategy done on the ploy of other people, say like Core Motorsports, being able to take that no stint of tyres, or was that just a decision of, you know what, we're out ahead, you know, we have the opportunity to take no tyres? Is that just something that came up on the fly, or was that a strategic decision that was in place from the very beginning?
We decided that a few laps before the pit stop because there were 3 or 4 cars in the range of 20 seconds behind us, some Audis and McLarens, and we know if they would jump us at the pit stop, we would have a very hard time passing them. So we just went for the alternative strategy, keeping the tires on and just try to win the race from the front.
It seems like a good way forward. Now you lead the championship heading into the final round at the Nürburgring. Now, it's one of those things, leading a championship, and Coanda do it so many times, Redline do it so many times, but you're fighting against the Core Motorsports team, which are really pushing here, pushing there, which really do target this. For a team such as yours, like Coanda, which is so broadly based, are all your eggs now going to go into this basket of, we need to win this title here in the Blancpain series?
Oh yeah, I think we will have a 3-way battle for the championship in the last race with Inex Red and Core Motorsports, we should be very close in the standings right now. And yeah, I think the break to the next race is kind of short. We only have 3 weeks, which is not too long to prepare. And yeah, we just try to make the best out of it.
Certainly made the best out of it indeed. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for your race victory today?
Oh yeah, of course. Also big thanks to Renz and Klaus, who worked on the setup together with Marcus and me. I think it was a very excellent setup we had. And big shout out to our sponsors, VRS, who are supporting us, and also to Andy Werner.
Yeah, big thanks indeed to them. A fantastic victory for you. Jorn Jens, part of the VRS Coanda Sinsport team that wins today at Imola. Randy Chenoweth will hopefully be standing by with Alexander Voss, but at the moment, I believe he's not here. Yes, he is here. Alexander Voss here for what is this Huizenveld Core Motorsports team, Randy.
Alexander, what a race it was from you guys in the Huizenveld Core Motorsports team. First question is simple. You guys knew you had a drive-through coming into this. If anyone had come to you and said you guys are going to finish P2, would any of you have believed them?
First of all, thank you and congratulations to VRS Coanda Sinsport and Pure Racing team for the 3rd place. Yeah, we never thought about we could finish this race in the P5 or even P2, what we managed. Every time we thought about what's the target for this race, we've spoken about, yeah, maybe P10, P15 would be quite okay because it's a tough field. It's tough to overtake those cars, and yeah, at the end we are really quite happy, and I have really not that much words for this.
And now let's talk about this next round of the championship at the Nürburgring. We've seen, after Coanda did it twice, everyone seems to decide, hey, we're going to gamble with tires. Redline did it, Curb Surfers did it. They both did it in the middle stint. You guys, Coanda decided to go for it. I believe Core decided to go for it as well in the final stint. Looking at the Nürburgring, is that a circuit where you think the tire skipping strategy is going to be quite as popular, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more traditional, kind of have to take tires at both stops?
Well, it depends hardly on the weather conditions. Today we had really cold weather if you compare it with default, for example. If I'm not completely wrong, in the next round we also have afternoon weather settings, so yeah, it's quite possible, I think, but yeah, we have to test it.
Well, and just also going into that final race, there's been a lot of racing at the Nürburgring of pretty high level as of late. We of course had the Sim Racing Expo event, which you guys attended, and Angelo Mickel actually managed to win. And then of course we had, just before that, we had the official series, which I think has the highest soft race I think I've ever seen. I think it was like 5,900. Looking at that, what's your opinion on balance of performance going into the Nürburgring? Is it going to suit your Audi? Is it going to suit the BMWs, the Mercedes? Who do you think is going to be strong in that final round of the championship?
From that what I've seen, it's pretty equal, I guess. All cars are nearly have nearly the same speed if you compare it to speed rise and tire load rise. So I think we will see an awesome finish of this series, and yeah, it will really battle for the championship.
Well, congratulations on the fantastic second place finish tonight, Alexander. It really was. I mean, that might be the drive of the season. Any shout outs? Anyone you guys like to thank this evening?
Yeah, of course. I really want to thank the whole team and our setup guy for preparing the setup. Yeah, of course, Heusingfeld Engineering, our main sponsor, and FITEC. Yeah, that's it. And of course, you guys for an awesome broadcast.
All right, well, thank you as well, Alexander, for joining us. Hopefully see you guys strong next week at the Nürburgring, and I'm glad this championship's close going back down into the finish.
Thank you, Wendy.
Back to you, Jake.
Well, it seems that we don't have anybody else left but Jimmy. This legacy that goes on after this race, we've seen so much that we can learn from this in terms of the sim racing that we've seen. We've seen people try stuff and fail. We've seen succession. We've seen people throw away championships, and then we've seen people come up to the fold. We've seen drivers that we thought didn't have a chance get themselves that big opportunity, and after all of this, it was a cracking race this afternoon.
It's definitely been a pleasure to commentate on. I think what we've learned today is, on paper, people are capable of one thing, capable of certain times, capable of certain consistencies, but out there in the race when the pressure's on, that's all completely different. We see these Coanda style strategies come in where people brave maybe not taking tires to force hands, etc. But in this case, it just didn't work. It's not called a brave strategy for no reason. You make the strategy because it isn't the favoured way to go. But it's definitely been one of the more pleasurable races that I've commentated on, and just sort of keeping up to date with all the battles whilst commentating has been challenging and very rewarding. So on behalf of me anyway, thank you to the drivers for making such a fantastic race to watch.
Certainly indeed, but that is all that we will have time for this afternoon. A big thank you to all the drivers, all the people who put themselves in, to Nim Cross officiating this race as well, doing a fantastic job of that as well. That has been Jimmy Broadbent. That has been Randy Chenalth. That's been Hugo Louise behind the cameras, and I have been Jake Sperry. In X Racing Red, they've thrown it away. In X Racing Yellow, they've thrown it away. Redline Black, maybe they've thrown it away. It is pretty much a two-horse race. Will it be Coanda or will it be Heusingfeld Core Motorsports? The place to check it out will be the Nürburgring in 3 weeks' time. That has been a masterclass of racing, and it's Coanda if you can. Good night.